right, going live. All right, we should be live. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to episode 140, roundtable, I guess I should say, not episode. Roundtable 140, episode God knows what.
Yeah, we don't. we should get a.
I think that's probably got to be pushing it close to 100 more for book clubs, right?
We gotta put.
We did 25 something for the
Yeah.
last book. We did well. The first two books are significantly shorter than the third one, so I'd say we're probably a good 60 or so episodes, if not 70 episodes.
We should put
book clubs.
We should put it in parentheses after you put roundtable number 140 and then parentheses episode.
I don't know what it would be. It'd be a lot though. Not to yeah. Plus we had some some oddball things, but yeah. Either way, we're here for roundtable 140. Welcome. Hello, Carol in the chat. Listening at work. Awesome. Glad to have you with us here. But yeah, we are here for the roundtable. Let's go ahead and hit the intro and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, as well as the entire extended Stephen King universe. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for Roundtable number 140. We were both just, if you're watching us live, we were both scrambling to see if we could find somewhere that would show us the episode count. But
There's nothing but lies on
Yeah.
the internet. Nothing but lies. They say we've only done 100 episodes. And that's not true.
yeah, that's definitely not true. Which is weird because I think there's like ways you can set a podcast when you're setting it up to like drop episodes off, because there's some people that put like their older episodes behind a paywall of some kind, like Dan Carlin does that with Hardcore History.
Yeah.
There's options for that, but I've always left those turned off, so I don't know why anyone would have less than everything. Very strange. But yeah, we're here for the Roundtable 140. Let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to first of all warn you about spoilers. This is a roundtable. I'd be very surprised if we get through this introduction without spoiling something from the 7 primary books of the Dark Tower series. So if you have not finished the entire series, you may want to hold off on these episodes and stick to our book club episodes. And the book clubs, we stay where we're at or before. We don't jump ahead except for a very, very, very small section at the end of every episode where we talk about spoilers. But you are warned quite a bit in terms of that we are moving into that, so you won't accidentally stumble into it. Then if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You can stream us on Spotify or Stitcher, or find us on any podcasting service, including Amazon Music and Audible now. If you want to subscribe to us or rate and review us on any of those services, we'd appreciate that. If you want to join us live, like so far we've seen Cody, which also just said hi, and Carol, hello to both of you that have chatted, sent something in the chat so far. If you want to join live, such as they are, you can do that over youtube.com/Dark Tower Palaver. We go every fortnight. We come back and live stream. You can also find all of our previous episodes dating back to, I think it was somewhere in the 80s, Roundtable 80 something when we started YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. You can find all of our backlog stuff on there. And then if you want to, of course, as everyone has to do on YouTube or be annihilated by the AI, you have to say like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. So blink 3 times if you're in danger from the AI, because, yes, Skynet will enter the room somewhere. There's plenty of technology around us. So we have fed the YouTube gods. Now, if you want to find the show notes, you can do that over at darktowerpalaver.com. This is a very unique episode. I don't know what kind of show notes we're really going to have for this episode. Yeah, normally, though, that's where the show notes are, as well as it is the hub for all things Dark Tower Palaver. You can find links to everything, including merchandise, I'm trying to think, Patreon, basically everything Dark Tower, all of our social media, that you'll find links over there, as well as our questions for new listeners. If you are a new listener, want to introduce yourself, one thing the Dark Tower taught us is that when somebody joins the quartet new, they usually tell their story. We have a whole set of questions. You can answer one of them. You can answer all of them. Those are we found are the best way to introduce yourself to the larger quartet. Then if you want to support the show, you can do that over at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. With that, you get access to our Discord server where you can chat with us all the time between episodes. Of course, tormenting Peter with beasts and emojis. And as well as we have monthly hangouts where we do all kinds of various things, including take requests, although no singing. And then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the best ways to do that.
Best ways to reach us is through email. We have 2 emails currently. Our old one, which is darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. That one's getting phased out. And we're switching over to our new email. It's show@darktowerpalaver.com. And then check out our social medias. We have Twitter. It's @DarkTowerPod. That's @DarkTowerPod. And then our Facebook is facebook.com/DarkTowerPalaver. Instagram is DarkTowerPalaver, all one word, no spaces. And then check out our merchandise. Go to tpublic.com/users/DarkTowerPalaver. Pick yourself up a #TatIsTerrible shirt, sticker, pillow.
Or the classic logo that is not slandering at all.
There's no slander, sir. We've already talked about this. It's libel.
At least you admit it's false. That's the main thing.
No, it's what you're accusing me of. That's not actually true, though. Do you want to take a guess at what the first roundtable on YouTube is? You said 80s?
Yeah, we've looked it up before, and
you're going to be shocked.
Yeah, go on.
42.
Good Lord. Interesting. So it's been a while.
6 years.
Yeah, Jesus. That's nuts. And we have been live streaming the whole time on YouTube as well.
We started doing live on YouTube right around the time that the film came out.
Wow. Yeah, I would have guessed
that's the reason probably why we started going like, dude, we've done live streams before. Why don't we just do it? Like every time we record and everything. And
yeah, I would.
Here we are.
If you would have asked me to guess, I would have said like 2019, like 2 years after the movie. That's about what it feels like.
Nope.
So very crazy.
Because I was scrolling down and I was like, okay, he said the 80s, and I'm like, okay, there's the 80s, and I'm like, wait a minute, like right here, episode 75, and there's a picture of It Chapter 1 with Pennywise as the thumbnail, and I'm like, wait, we were live streaming before that. I just kept scrolling and scrolling.
What was the number again?
42.
40. So we're almost.
No, I lied. Dark Tower Roundtable number 38 was live as well. Was on YouTube as well.
Oh.
But it goes from 38 to 42. But 42 from there on, 42, 43, 44, 45.
Okay,
so it's consistent from there.
All right.
So Roundtable 37 is also on there, but I don't know if they're. Dude, there might be something up with YouTube here where it might even be further back than that, and it's just not adding, because I'm in a playlist.
Yeah.
So it might not even be
I have the
adding it into
playlist
the
set up
playlist.
to show everything, though.
Okay.
So
there's 111 roundtables.
Wow.
I'm just looking at roundtables. So.
Interesting. That is wild. Well, speaking of that good man, Pennywise, of course, we actually have.
We jumping right to that.
Yeah, we'll start off with an announcement here. Let's see. Go ahead and go on over to the slide here. We do have an announcement here for Dark Tower Palaver. We are hitting the road, and what better way to do that than to go to good old Randyland, Las Vegas, because they have now announced that the It Chapter 2 escape room is open.
We literally found this out on our Patreon hangout 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
literally we were just talking back and forth, and I'm like, have you heard about it? Like, have you heard it? Todd literally clicky-clack way onto the website, and it's like, It Chapter 2, buy tickets now.
Well, I had been keeping an eye on it, but I think it had been about a week or so when we did that hangout since I had looked last. So it was somewhere within about a week of that last hangout that they finally opened It Chapter 2. Of course, no newsletters that I signed up for to tell me such things.
Ever said anything?
No, nothing. So that is open now. So we are going to go on down to the land of Randall Flagg. So yeah, we will. I guess let's see. Do I have another? No, is that okay? Never mind. I guess I didn't put the date on the slide, but it will be October 7th. The show will be live from our hotel room. Not entirely sure the hotel we're going to yet. So yeah, we're gonna go down there. The first episode of October, we will be doing live from Las Vegas. We will have done the It escape room by that point. We'll be talking about it. Yeah,
in detail.
And isn't that just very fitting too. An It Escape Room in Randyland. It's like our two favorite non-Dark Tower novels.
The Stand for you and It for me.
Coming together into one thing.
There is plenty for both of us on this trip when it comes to Stephen King, that's for sure. Especially since we're taking a pilgrimage from Utah to Nevada.
Yeah, so good chunk of the journey from the stand.
It's exactly like Stu and Glenn and Ralph and Larry took.
Yeah,
and Cujo. Can't forget Cujo. He's a good boy.
So then July we have flipped our order a little bit because of 3 episodes. And I was trying to think about it as I was preparing for this, and I was like, "Why has this never been an issue before?" It's because we've always done. This is the first year I think we've been doing every other, isn't it? Because hadn't we been doing like 2 round tables?
We just kind of we were kind of just I like deciding randomly before. Then we started doing 2 1 book club, 2 round tables, 1 book club.
Yeah,
and then it was this, and then it was late last year or mid last year. You're like, dude, we should do more roundtables. Like, we need to get through these books, man. We're in book 2 or something like that. So, I think it's when we started book 3, or no, it was after we had started book 3.
Yeah. So that's why it's messing these episodes up like it hasn't before. So we will flip them back in October. So we'll have 2 roundtables in a row, the end of September and the beginning of October. And also, we discovered somehow that in the 20 years we've been friends, we have never traveled together in a meaningful way like this. Like went somewhere, stayed overnight, that kind of thing. We've taken some drives here and there, but
hour drives here and there. We've gone up to Wendover a couple times and everything like that, and been around this entire valley here and everything like that. Tad's gone out of town. He's gone to a couple Star Wars celebrations. I've obviously gone out of town, family vacations, and I've gone to see my favorite football team in California play a couple times. Tad's gone to see his Packers play in Wisconsin, but never together. We've never spent a night in a hotel room together. We've never traveled that far together. We've never been in the car together more than 2 hours. It's just, I was talking to my wife about this, and I think I figured it out, Tad. It's just the fact that what we want to do is here in this, talking,
exactly,
and going to movies and eating food and playing video games and stuff, watching in movies at home and everything. That's always what we've been about. We've never been about like, let's go to New York, or let's go to Florida.
Well, we were teasing before we discovered the It Escape Room. We were going to be going to Estes Park to go to the Stanley Hotel. That's still on the docket. It'll just be coming a little bit later because ultimately when it comes to stuff in Vegas, I don't trust anything to survive. So we want to hit this up now just in case it is not a permanent fixture in the town. So there are very few of those in Las Vegas. Yeah. So, it'll be a fun time for sure. But we will be doing the live stream for both shows from Vegas in October. So looking forward to that.
Getting all that stuff put together to be able to take the show on the road for the first time.
And that's been an interesting thing, looking into how to move everything. Everything.
Are we gonna have cameras?
Yeah, we'll have to have cameras.
We don't have to have cameras. We can go back to audio for the road episodes.
No, live streaming is just audio.
We did it for like a year and a half on YouTube.
Know, we shouldn't have though. But yeah, either way. Also, let's see. Going back, Cody says 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. I think when you were asking about guessing the number of episodes. And I guess he was actually closer than I was.
Yeah.
to the truth of when we started.
Yeah.
Let's see. Carol says I found y'all and I caught up on Apple Podcasts and figured out the tech to go live every fortnight and never turned back. Cody also, you said Cujo, but he says you mean Kojak.
Did I say Cujo?
You did say Cujo.
I was looking at Tad.
Yeah, so I thought you were just doing that to try to tweak me.
Nope, that was a pure brain not working moment.
Yeah.
I've had a few of those this weekend. You guys are gonna have to forgive me this.
I thought you were just doing it to get after me because those monstrous Saint Bernards.
I love Saint Bernards. They're my favorite dog. I wonder why.
And then Alan also says the background colors to us here match our microphones. That is true. Darth Vader, of course, has the best lightsaber in Star Wars, and
that's not true.
Peter likes the Youngling Slayer 5000 lightsaber as one of his favorite lightsabers. So
I
blue,
own it.
red. It seemed to work out.
Good guy, bad guy. It's just the way you symbolize that.
Oh yeah, so that is what we have coming up in October. We're looking forward to going down. I've never done an escape room before either. That'll be a new experience for me in general. Not to mention, I can't wait to hit that It gift shop at the end.
I don't know what I'm going to buy my wife, but I have to get her something, right?
Oh yeah, naturally.
And I have to record her getting it, right?
Oh yeah, naturally.
Like that's like the rule.
The larger the thing, the better. You know, if a life-size standee of Pennywise, that'd be.
Dude,
that'd
I'm
be,
not going to give it to her. I'm just going to like stand it up in the shower.
Oh yeah, naturally, yeah. That's exactly what you got to do.
Especially since we just got a new shower curtain. We had a really like a black shower curtain, so you couldn't see into the shower like at all. But now we have a lighter shower curtain, so you can like see like the silhouette.
Or you could see if you could find an inflatable Pennywise, like Home Alone 2, when he has that inflatable clown in the bathtub.
Ooh.
Turn the water on in the middle of the night, and she goes in and sees a clown in there. That'd be awesome.
Oh, you're terrible. You want me to get like kicked out, don't you?
Heil Agamorphy. And then Cody also says he likes purple lightsabers, so he likes lightsabers to say bad motherfucker on them.
Yep. It said it on his hill, right?
Just the initials.
Oh.
Yeah, just the special effect, or not the props folks did that as a tribute to Sammy J, of course, famously from Pulp Fiction. So next up, we got a couple things of news that we just absolutely could not cover, basically.
Got to cover these.
So we are going to do this. The main topic for this episode we're doing is, which sounds wrong for this episode to talk like that. But our main thing we wanted to talk about is we decided to do a 10,000-foot view of Wind Through the Keyhole.
Yeah.
I have been keeping an eye on the news a little bit. Largely, though, most of the news, except for a couple things here, we're just going to skip. So next roundtable is probably going to be chock full insofar as the news that we've skipped is worth covering.
That'll be in November.
No. The one in September.
Right, September. I keep forgetting about September. God.
I mean, it's a great month. That's when the weather starts to chill out a little bit.
It's your birth month, and that's why I'm just like black.
Yeah.
It's bad.
The 19th.
It's just bad.
It's a good one. All right, so the first one here is we are going back to some Flanagan updates.
Flanagan.
So Flanagan, let's see. Okay, I did update the slide. All right, I didn't update my little the byline thing, but ultimately Flanagan was on the King cast once again. I think it's his third or fourth time now. They were covering Dolores Claiborne, which I have not read nor seen, so I haven't listened to it yet.
I don't think I've read Dolores Claiborne.
Yeah, you have.
Have I?
You talked about liking it. It was just a matter of
I
don't know if you watched it though.
I just remembered which one it is.
Have you watched the Kathy Bates adaptation yet?
No.
Okay, so yeah, maybe you'll have to give that a watch at some point, and then you could listen to this full episode here.
Okay.
But yes, so he was on there, and of course, do you think he can go onto a Stephen King podcast without being accosted?
Of course he can. No one would ever ask him. Yeah, no. That's not possible.
So they asked him about Dark Tower, and I've got 3 quotes from him.
Okay.
The first one here, and this is all direct quotes, as his response to their questions. He says, I feel really good about where we are. Oddly, where we are at the moment is completely frozen because of the strike, but we had a wonderful spring with it, and we're making enormous progress on it. And I have every reason to believe that on the other side of the strike, it's going to be priority number 1.
What? Say it again.
What?
Just say it again.
Say it
again.
Just that last part. And I have every reason to believe that on the other side of the strike, it's going to be priority number 1.
Oh my!
So
is it happening?
Let's get this fucking strike,
dude. Whose
over with.
kneecaps do I need to break? Like, what do I gotta do? Like, what do I have to do to get this strike over with? Seriously.
Get executives to stop being greedy.
Kneecap Buster 9000 coming out. Here we go. Oh man. Oh.
What's ridiculous is I've seen a thing where it was like showing like all these big companies like Disney and Netflix and stuff. Dude, most of them, it is not only less than 1% of their profits that they would pay for what they're doing, but in most of them it's like 0.01%.
God.
So it's like so ridiculously minute to the overall scheme of things.
People they're freaking out at my reaction. Say it again. Peter has smoke coming out of his ears. Say it to my face. Peter's grin was as big as my screen. What you're saying is I had a Joker grin going on right there.
Yeah, yeah. And your say it again did make me think of Kathy Bates a little bit there.
Did I? Really?
Just seemed like something she would say in Misery.
Oh.
But then
she's not dead. Like that freak out that she has on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then the next quote here, he says, "We have great partners on it that I can't talk about." We've already talked a little. We had a quote previously that made us very suspicious that maybe some shit was actually, whether it's solidified,
handshake agreements, verbal agreements, kind of thing.
So we locked onto something that he said on a previous quote, but this seems to confirm our suspicions there. So he says, "We have great partners on it that I can't talk about. We've got some really exciting actors circling on it that I can't talk about. And we have some potentially groundbreaking approaches to filmmaking of it that I just can't really talk about."
What? What? Why?
Oh, Cody cut Peter equals a knife and a axe.
Oh, I'm going to use the axe to get this strike over with, yeah.
And that isn't the end of this quote. Let me just finish it here.
Oh,
he says, "But what I can say is that my fears that any momentum that we had developing was going to be obliterated by the strike, well, I don't really worry about that." So, because there is a real reality of things can, go rotten on the vine during a strike or whatever. So
there was talks about that. I think it was me and you were talking about it the other day at work, where like, this movie was supposed to be, starting production, and who knows now with the strike if it's going to get off the ground or not.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, and yes, Alan mentions that the strike is good, the industry is the joke. Yes,
I am not saying in any way that we should end it.
We're putting 100% blame on the companies here.
Exactly.
It's not the people by any means.
I'm finding out more and more details about those greedy corporations that are keeping the writers underpaid and stuff like that, and it's just, it's pissing me off. And then the pettiness of them too. I think we talked about it a couple weeks ago, or the episode before that. They went and trimmed all the trees where they're out on the picket line so they don't have shade.
They got fined for that
one of the hottest because they did it without a city permit. Yeah. The city's supposed to do it, fuckers.
Yep, that's
you know what? Just for them. They deserve that.
Yeah, that is true. So we got
Cody says he couldn't find a hockey mask emoji.
So then we have the one last bit of the one last quote here. He says, "We are in a healthy place. We are, of course, in solidarity with WGA and SAG. Once again, the immediate needs are taken care of, and once those immediate needs are taken care of and everyone is back to work, I think that's where we're going to immediately deploy. But it's,
oh my god!
But it's going very well.
Oh my dude." I want this strike to end so badly that I'm going to bust kneecaps and ankles of all those executives that are too cheap to pay their people what they deserve.
Go full Tanya Harding.
I will go full Tanya Harding. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, so I mean, parsing this out, of course, the strike is stopping everything.
Yeah.
The big takeaways here. Priority number one. That means that, he's just signed to do Life of Chuck, another Stephen King thing. Makes me wonder if that is, more backburnered.
He says full steam ahead. I wonder if any of the other stuff already has the screen, the writer's part of it done. I know the Actors Guild is out as well.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something that's like, okay, when we get back, I'm going to be working on this, is what he said.
Yeah.
But he didn't say that he's going full in. That's the only thing I'm going to be working on.
Yeah.
So let's
So yeah,
calm down a little bit.
And then another big takeaway: there is partners involved, which makes me think that
he's got a service. He's got a service. He's got somewhere where this show's going to go. And actors circling it.
The groundbreaking approaches to filmmaking is very.
I know that's
interesting
enticing for you. I know that is.
That's very interesting because what does that mean? Is that like like the volume on Mandalorian that redefines how filmmaking is done, or is that talking like they talked about back in 2016, talking about the movie television show thing that they were looking? Because we've already seen that what his idea is what 5 seasons of televisions and 2 movies.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it's coming down to, is like how that's all staggered.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that is probably the biggest thing that I circled in my mind, because I'm like,
For
what
you,
the
yeah.
hell does that mean? The rest of it, we've at least had some well, except for priority number 1, that's new. But then the idea of like there's maybe partners, that there's actors he's talked to. We've heard all that before.
Yes.
But what is that revolution like? Yeah, or groundbreaking
Innovation.
approaches to filmmaking. Like, what the hell does that mean?
That just screams like innovation. Like, hey, it's the first time we're using like IMAX cameras and stuff like that.
Something, yeah.
Something is going to be different about this, and it's just going to be like.
Or again, it could be a structural thing. It could be a thing of like, he signed a deal with someone, or he is ready to sign a deal with someone, and they've agreed to seasons and movies and how he's all gonna. Who knows? It could be anything like that. But those are the things that really jumped out to me. And then like that last thing there. I think when it's done, we're going to immediately deploy. That makes me wonder. Here is
we do have to remember. Sorry, finish what you were saying.
No, I was just going to say. I wonder if once the strike is resolved, if within a month or so from there, we're going to be getting some sort of deadline article.
That he's working
announcing the signing to X service and what the general outline's looking like, and maybe even with a casting involved, because sometimes those things are packaged together. So maybe there'll be some sort of big thing. And again, I don't know when the strike's gonna resolve itself.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder. Once it does, though, I'm gonna start a stopwatch and see it.
Start taking bets over under how many days until we see
in my mind
article.
within a month of it ending. I wonder if, with the way he's talking here, it makes me wonder that a lot of pieces are in place, but there's no trigger pulled
before the strike.
Strike goes into effect. Once the strike's over, you're in striking distance to just pull the trigger, and then you get like the media. You want to get the big announcement, get the hype going, all that kind of stuff.
So a couple things from the chat. Agamorphy and Baraki both joined us. Agamorphy says, saw an article that Life of Chuck is scheduled for shooting in October. See, that's what I was saying.
Because that is true. Because I think that was it's not an independent movie, but it's like one of those like movies that they make and then try to sell to someone, which means that he can work on that during the strike, because he's not working on a product for the studios.
For a studio. He's making a movie, and then he's going to sell it once the strike is over or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Agamorphy also says, Pedro Pascal said in an interview that he is perfectly happy that focus on The Mandalorian is not necessarily on him, which makes me think he really is close to signing with Flanagan, if not already. Dude, him as Roland?
We talked about that.
We did. Alan also says, kind of nerding out over the dream casting again. LOL.
Yeah.
We need to pull that episode up and put it up as a feature again on the site.
Yeah. This is big though. Like I said, there's no way I could let this slide into
I will
September.
say I want to temper my expectations for that the strike ending does not mean we instantly have a green light and episodes will be starting filming in the Dark Tower Flanagan series. I have to remember it's going to take time. He may have to still write and flesh things out and everything like that. They may have to get the deal done with the actual studio wherever they're making it, whatever service or whatever and everything. Also, if it's innovation in filmmaking, maybe it's going to take some time to develop some stuff. It's not going to be instant. It's not going to be within a month.
No, I'm talking about it. I'm talking about an announcement.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm talking to myself now, not you. I'm talking to myself.
And
easy, Peter.
And see me, I'm ready to be hurt again. I'm just ready to.
No, I've done this before. I can't do it again.
Developmental hell of 10 years or so for the last time. I'm fully ready to be hurt again for Flanagan.
Yeah. Cody says, "Screw waiting. Hook it to my veins." Here you go, Cody.
Just hook it to my veins.
That's for you, Cody. And for both of us, really. I mean, honestly, I as much as I want to try to keep my, pull the reins back, dude, I'm at a full gallop right now. I'm in a dead sprint. Let's go.
I also have to take some credit here.
Okay.
This came out early in August, so this is...
Jesus, you've been sitting on this for that long?
How? When I read it, and then I'm all excited, shit, but then I can't go to work and talk to you about it.
No,
because I gotta save it for the show.
That right there, that's Tad suffering for you guys and gals, so that you got that reaction from me. That's why I have my head in the sand.
There's a few times that I was just smiling ear to ear at work, and I was just like, I can't say anything, but I'm really happy right now.
I thought you were just plotting my murder again.
Well, that too.
Oh,
oh man. Let's see. So yeah, that is
Oof.
is the big one.
I'm surprised you didn't save it for the end of the episode. Holy crap! Like, dang.
So another thing happened,
Uh-oh.
and I don't know how this compares. Some people might say this is even more exciting than.
How could anything be as exciting or more exciting than Flanagan Dark Tower series going forward?
Dude, what the heck?
Uh-oh.
My slide is not showing, but I think I left it as skip. So let me go ahead and go into it manually. So the next one here, King did a podcast called Talking Scared. Just temper yourself here. We talked last episode. We don't necessarily know outside of Holly what's going on. King alluded to in the death of just blanked on his name. No Country
Stroud.
for Old Men.
Oh.
The Road. I'm blanking on his fucking name.
McCormick.
Cormac McCarthy. He talked in that about writing a short story, and he gave like an actual excerpt from the story. But he said it was a story. He didn't say it was a novel. He didn't say all he said it was, I'm writing a story right now. So we're just like, outside of Holly, that's all we know. Well, in this podcast, there's a few things that King revealed. It's also a good listen. I'd recommend giving a listen to anyone. It's a fun one. It's like a horror-based podcast, and I guess at some point they did some stuff on it that King appreciated, so that's why they got so lucky as to have the King himself on their podcast. So the first big announcement is actually our first 2024 announcement.
Oh, okay.
So he talked about, it was very matter of fact, but then he suddenly dropped it in there. He's got a book titled You Like It Darker coming out in 2024.
Oh.
It is a short story collection.
Okay.
So
we haven't had one of those for a while.
It's been a minute. Yeah. I was going to look at the overall list. What is the last one that we've had? If It Bleeds. So 2020. But either way, I love short stories. You've been reading them more recently, so or in terms of like not recent, but you've in the grand scheme of things, you've read a lot of short stories in the last year or so.
Sure have.
So I figured you might be giddy about that. Now here's a fun one. It will be over 600 pages.
Good Lord.
So we're not talking like just a quick little in and out type short story collection here. We're talking about a lengthy thing, and I've got a quote from King talking about this, and that's what ultimately I was coming down to here is when we're talking about new written King. I think for some people that might be more exciting even than a Flanagan Dark Tower series, because at this point, man, we can't take for granted that King writes anything more. I mean,
no, he could be done at any minute.
He could retire. I mean, of course, writing to him is like breathing, so that's probably not going to happen. But we shouldn't take for granted that he is a writing machine.
Yeah.
But this quote here, he says, then last year, there's a story. It'll be in a book that comes out next year called You Like It Darker. They're mostly new stories, long stories for the most part. One of them is called The Dreamers. One night I was laying in bed. I tell myself stories before I go to sleep. That's how I get to sleep.
Oh, wow.
I had this image of a man who was under some kind of drug. He opens his eyes and they turn black, and then these tendrils start coming out of his eyeballs.
Ah. Can I? Am I allowed to?
Disgusting.
Oh.
I love that.
Eyes are a no, Tad. Tad, no eyes.
And then he says, they just creep me out. I couldn't think about it anymore. I put that aside. The next day I said to myself, I remember that book, Lovecraft's Beyond the Wall of Sleep. I said, what if a man didn't get through the wall of sleep or over the wall of sleep, but under it? What if there is something beyond that wall, beyond the actual dreams that we have? A reality that's huge, that's apocalyptic, some kind of darkness that's sentient and has something, or that had something like that. I thought that, let's see, I thought that it goes with the tendrils and the eyeballs. I had this story like that, but I couldn't think about it at night. I couldn't do it because it was just so creepy to me. So there's at least some tease for what one of the stories involved in all this. Alan says Cthulhu definitely. That's a
Cthulhu vibes.
Yes, indeed.
Baraki, I know you came in right in the middle of it. Flanagan's Dark Tower. He was on a podcast. I don't remember which one, Tad.
It was the Kingcast.
And they started asking him about his Dark Tower series, and he started saying things like we have actors circling, we have partners that are not official, I can't say anything, and innovative new techniques for filmmaking that are in the works. So as soon as the strike is over, the actors and writers strike is over, and it comes to a good conclusion, it's priority number one. Just to recap for anyone that's joined us or anything like that. And again, I'm just fucking excited.
This is like 11/22/63 on the news. That's just bulletins coming through. People,
you just got to keep repeating it.
If you just joined us. All right, so that is the first announcement from
Psyching
from the Talking Scared podcast, but that's not all.
Oh, okay.
What's behind door number 2, Johnny? And speaking of which, Bob Barker, I just saw he passed away today. Which was strange. It was only like a year or two ago I looked him up and realized he was still alive. I thought he had died
99 years old when he passed.
Yeah, that show died to me the day he left. That's an aside, though. Not nothing against the other guy that took over, but that dude is my childhood.
You're teasing them. Alan says, I'm biting my nails, and Cody says, Talisman 3? You got to stop teasing people, Tad. Get to the news.
So King also revealed that before he died, Peter Straub sent him a long letter detailing an idea for the Talisman 3. And then King also said that he had some ideas for it himself.
Is he doing it?
He said that if he writes it, that it will be a very long book. So there's no decision made now, but there is some input from Mr. Straub before he passed away. King has some ideas, and he's also saying that if he does write it, it will be a long book.
Oof.
So Talisman heads, I don't know what you want to call it, have hope. There is some hope, because a lot of people put all hope aside, because before Peter Straub died, he had said he didn't think it would ever happen. Then when Straub died, a lot of people are like, that's it. It will never happen. So here's King now throwing a little bit of glimmer of light out there.
What's that gif? It's Antonio Banderas, just the leaning back in the chair and the hand going to the mouth. Ooh. Which is the sounds that Alan's making in the chat right now.
Yeah. That was a huge thing.
Everyone is loving it. Hook it to my veins next.
Are you not? I mean, I know you're kind of got all worked up there over the Dark Tower Flanagan series, but I mean, I know you loved it. I love the Talisman now. I've read them both, so it's like, give it to me, please.
I think I'm numb at this point from all the good news. I cannot remember the last time we had so much good news in one episode. Usually you're really good at getting me all high and happy and everything, and then just crashing me back down to earth by saying that this is canceled, or that's canceled, or this isn't happening now. So,
or Oi got wrung like a rag. And
stop. Hashtag Todd is terrible. You're terrible.
Okay, but then
no, you usually preface highs and lows one after the other. Sometimes you'll bring me back up after a low or something like that, but to have these two back to back like this, but actually back to back to back, because a collection of short stories, if it bleeds, was only 4.
Yeah, that was just
a quartet of stories there.
Yeah.
The last short story collection that actually had multiple short stories, more than like 5 or 6.
Because I would say
2010.
If it bleeds was also I would say it's a novella collection.
Yes.
More than
short stories.
Because every one of those were novellas.
Yes.
Now he did say in that quote though that he did say where is it at? Where the fuck did it go? New stories, and he did say long stories for the most part.
Yeah.
So I would guess there's probably a number of novellas in this 600 pages. So, yeah. But there may be one more thing that King dropped on people.
Tad. I'm speaking for all of us. We can only take so much.
So the last of all, he talked about a lot on here, but the last thing that we need to cover is he talked about another long book that he is working on that is titled We Think Not.
We Think Not.
Yes. And he says it has a number. Compose yourself, sir.
The True Knot.
No, it's not.
Okay. Oh my God! I thought you were like hiding behind the fact that the word could be spelled 2 different ways.
No.
Oh, I thought we were getting like a fucking prequel to the True Knot or something. Oh, dude, I was about to freak out.
He does say it has a number of characters, but one of them is named Holly Gibney.
Holly! Yes!
So Holly coming in before the next episode of our show. Holly will be out
Oh my god.
because it is the end
Oh
of
shit, that comes out next month?
it is the end of August. So I do
Oh,
believe
shit.
what isn't that September? Because we will be back on the 9th for recording again, September 9th. And doesn't it come out on the 5th? Isn't it?
I'm pulling it up now.
Yeah, as I was saying, I think it's September 5th. So I think before we come back for our next book club, Holly will be out. But it sounds like that it will not be the last hurrah of Holly Gibney because she will be part of this one. He also did say, maybe I skipped the wording there, but he did say it's the working title is We Think Not. So that could very well change. But we don't know. He doesn't give any indication of date on that one. But I would say there's a
September 5th.
Okay, so yeah, but literally a few days before we record our next book club, Holly comes out. But I kind of wonder if what did I say? The other one, You Like It Darker.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if that one comes out early next year, and I wonder if this another Holly one comes out late next year.
Wait, didn't he say it was 25?
No, he didn't
Oh.
say anything. No date for that second one. So so You Like It Darker is coming out next year, 2024. The Talisman 3 is more of a tease. We don't really know what that is or isn't.
He also said if.
And then he said, he did say if. And then the one with the working title of We Think Not with Holly Gibney, no word on date, but I'm saying that we have seen King do it before where he drops one like early year, late year, especially when you're talking a short story. He's dropped full novels 2 or 3 a year. So that's not out of the question. But to have a short story collection, it wouldn't be unheard of that maybe in October, November of 24, we might be getting this Holly Gibney story. If not, I would say certainly 25. But that's not like King much, man.
No.
These one book years that we've seen every so often are very rare in King's career. So
He dropped Finders Keepers in June of 2015 and the Bazaar of Bad Dreams in November of 2015.
So End of Watch is the 2016 is the only one in that year. There's 2 in 17, one in 18. Okay. And then 19. But again, so there's been a few, but overall, like Multiple is a little bit more
later in Billy Summers in 2021.
Same year, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gwendy's Final Task, Fairy Tale, 22, and then Holly this year. So he isn't. I would just say that he is not completely set down to where he's only doing one book a year. So there may be a chance that this Holly book might come out next year as well. I'm not going to hold my breath. I will say in my mind it's a 2025 book, and then if it comes out in 24, happy days. So what else am I missing in the chat here? Let's see. So Happy Dances, Peter Can't Feel His Face. Black House is 2001. It's been cliffhanging for 22 years. Give it to me. Yeah, I mean that's true. It didn't really wasn't really much of a cliffhanger ending like book 4 or 3 of the Dark Tower series. But still, it's been a long while. If we were to get another one, that would be
Longer than
outside of maybe Dr. Sleep and The Shining. That's one of the longest gaps in King. But the other thing is, let's talk for a second here about another Holly book too. I know not everyone is as into Holly as you and I are.
Yeah.
But how unprecedented is this for Stephen King? Like, how many is this going to be for Holly now? The 3 Mr. Mercedes books, The Outsider, If It Bleeds, Holly. She's going to be in the realm of matching Roland here.
Probably, yeah.
This will be the 7th book. I mean, and Roland has 8 books, and then there's a short story here and there. But overall, Holly it's nuts because what was it? We were doing this podcast when we talked about the fact that King is not really much one for sequels, right? Of course, Dr. Sleep is a little bit before our podcast, but then the whole Bill Hodges trilogy came out while we've been doing our podcast, and that obviously broke the mold of King, where it's like, holy shit, he's doing a whole series here.
Yeah.
But now with Holly, he is infatuated with this character because outside of Roland, man, she's not many characters that come as close to what has been happening with Holly than outside of Roland and the quartet. So, and I guess Jake, we can give Jake credit too. He was there in book 1, so.
For a minute.
Yeah, it's true. But that's all I've got. You okay over there, sir? You got all riled up. Now you're all quiet and.
That was an adrenaline high. That was such an adrenaline high for 20, 30 minutes there that I'm crashing now. Just holy shit, we got Flanagan news. We got news about new short story collection. We got
and
news about a new book that he's working on.
It's so funny 'cause
and a tease for Talisman 3.
the last time we talked in a roundtable, we talked about the fact that it was feeling very. We're like, dude, what's going on after Holly? We were kind of like, we don't know. Like, is there going to be something after? Like,
Yeah.
yes, he's talked about writing that other story because of Cormac
But
McCarthy.
we haven't
but it's
heard
like,
anything.
But it's like, do you think that everything that man writes gets published?
No.
Or do you think there's like
We know it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I mean,
do.
Pet Cemetery almost didn't get published if it wasn't for Tabitha.
Yeah, I
So-
do believe after he passes away, there'll be a number of lost King stories that'll be
Yeah.
published over a decade or so after that. Just because I'm sure he's got a shitload of stories sitting around that just never found their way into collections and whatever. And I can't imagine his family wouldn't want to release as much as, not for any other
Yeah.
reason other than to bless the fans with as much of his work as possible. But
Yeah. Cody says Will Patton reading Holly is pretty good too. Can't go wrong with Will Patton.
yeah, although I will remind everyone in a week or so time when we do get Holly on audiobook. This is the first one that that Will Patton is not narrating because Justina Lupe that played Holly in the Mr. Mercedes series is narrating the new Holly book.
That's right.
I forgot about that, and while I was actually looking at some prep stuff, it said something about her, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's not Will Patton." I'm like, "Wait a minute, I already knew that." But they had like a video of her in the studio, and she was like, "Oh,
Like reading.
yeah," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool, though." I mean, she played Holly,
Yeah.
but it will be the first for us for sure.
David said it's weird to think that both Holly and Roland are characters out of the same person's imagination.
I know, isn't that nuts? Like, that's what the thing with King, man. Like,
So is Pennywise and Flag.
yeah,
I mean, like, this man has created so many iconic characters.
yeah,
Freaking Jack Nicholson stuck in my head, but the
Jack Torrance,
Jack Torrance in The Shining.
yeah.
Misery. Like, so many characters have come from this man.
One other thing I'm going to throw out there that I did see some people talking about on the internet in general when it comes to the short story collection.
Yeah.
It was a number of years ago. I think it was actually before our time as a podcast. Or if it was before we started covering all things King. There was one point that King talked about that he was writing a Cujo sequel.
Really?
Whether it was a novel or a novella or a short story. So this new short story collection has some people wondering, like, he talked about this maybe a decade ago or so, and we still have never seen such thing pop out anywhere. So
Bark, bark.
we might have some sort. I'm not even going to say we might. I'm just going to say people have brought up the fact that King has mentioned that before in interviews, and it has never appeared yet. It didn't show up in it.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's something else to wonder about when it comes to content. So
Cody asks, didn't Tabitha save Carrie too? Agamorphy says, Cody, yes, she recovered Carrie from the trash can. And Cody says, we owe a lot to Mrs. King?
yes.
I always mix up Miss and Mrs. Which one is which?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
the little MS.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it.
yeah. We do indeed.
Did she save Carrie? I never knew
Yeah.
that she saved Carrie. I knew she saved Pet Cemetery. And I knew
No,
that
she didn't. You're confused. It
Am I
was
mixing them
Carrie.
up?
He threw it. He
Okay.
basically threw it in the trash, and I can't write girls. I don't know how
And
to
then
do
she
this.
pulled it out and helped him with it.
Yeah.
I thought he threw Pet
No, Pet
Cemetery away. 'cause
Sematary,
He's
I
like,
think-
no one will publish this.
No, I think he put it away, and he said, "I don't know if anyone will publish this." But
Yeah.
then there came a point when they're like, "Hey, what do you got?" And he's like, "I do have this." And they're like, "Okay, yeah,
Oh,
But no,
okay.
yeah, you're
Okay.
conflating Carrie for sure." But yeah, so a lot of stuff going on there. And guess what? No downside. We're talking all positivity here.
I don't trust you. I don't trust you, Tad. I've been hurt before by you. So
I just
until we say long days and pleasant nights at the end of the show, I'm not going to trust you.
hey, I just report the news, sir. I don't create it.
Yeah, sure.
If I created the news, I would have, I don't even know.
Flanagan
Just,
greenlit. Flanagan cast as Roland. Flanagan cast Aaron Paul as Eddie.
a fluffy sequel.
I said in the Discord the other day that I would hug Fluffy if it meant Dark Tower got greenlit. Apparently I did, because we're getting close.
Yeah. So maybe you'll be
I
hugging.
did it all for you guys, for everyone.
You're going to be hugging Fluffy, is what you're saying. Let's see here. Let me go back. Okay, there we go. Sorry, the slides got screwed up because I went into one that I forgot to unskip. So that does bring us over to the Palaver section. Sorry, my slides went nuts there for a second. But yeah, so Palaver section. Speaking of the I don't know, the ability for King to do all kinds of crazy shit. We're talking about Wind Through the Keyhole, which is strange that I talked about this off air at least. I don't remember if I mentioned it on air. Hager Morby says we think not, and it's
Cody from Kansas in our Discord just said, I'm listening from the hospital, just had a healthy baby boy last night.
Oh, congrats,
Cody.
Congrats. I'm glad you're watching that. I don't know where my Discord's. I think I may shut it off when I don't think it notifies you when you're recording.
Yeah.
When you press record,
You don't have like pop-ups and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, congrats. That's awesome. Cody says Flanagan cast Gary Oldman as every character in the Dark Tower. I mean, that would work.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, it's the only one that he would struggle with is probably the tower itself.
No, he could do it.
Well, he could do it, but he might struggle a little bit.
Nah. I mean, he was great playing the mountain when they climbed Mount Everest in that movie.
As the Taheen, his head literally just transforms into like a fucking bird.
He just like morphed. He's like the T-1000. Just
yeah. So yeah, what I ultimately what I think I at least said it off air. I don't remember if I said it on air. For some weird reason, we have never talked about Wind Through the Keyhole in any way. So we know the book club is probably going to be 2050 before we get to it at the rate we're going through, because we have said repeatedly we won't do Wind Through the Keyhole until after book 7.
Publication date.
Publication order. We'll get into that a little bit here, but that's where I believe it's the best to read it. I think it is a big mistake, especially if it's a first-time reader, to read this where it falls chronologically, because as one that was almost kicked out of the saddle entirely by the loss of momentum of book 4, if I had went on to the next book and it was another non-moving forward story, I don't think I would have continued the series, to be honest. And it wouldn't have been like because it was bad. It would have been because, you know what, fuck this, man. It would have been anger for sure. So
so it's Cody in chat that had the baby. Okay, he's got different names in Discord than in the chat. So
okay, yeah.
Congrats,
So yeah, indeed, congrats.
He says thanks, guys. Trying to breed a new line of King fans. Good start so far.
Yep, constant readers, man. It's been generations of them now. So let's keep it going.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so Went Through the Keyhole, we decided we just wanted to touch on it in a way where, you know, I figured we'd probably have most of the episode. We went a little bit longer on the news than I anticipated, but
I mean,
for
it's
what we're
good
covering.
news.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to plan. Good news takes longer.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, but I Went Through the Keyhole, the Tale of the Tape was released February 21st, 2012. So yeah, it was a few years before we started this. By the time we started, everything was published Dark Tower wise. Page count, which everyone knows by this point I hate page counts because they're always so varying, is 336, but the word count, which is immutable, is 91,857. So kind of middle of the road, even to the low end of the middle of the road for the Dark Tower series.
Yep.
But that's kind of where it stands. So yeah, my first thing I had down ultimately is where to read it, and that's what I just said. I really think that, because the other part of it for me, and you can disagree if you want, what I love about it is it's a return to friends after it's all over.
Yeah.
After you've read book 7, you've all the trauma that goes along with that. You then are able to, you know, I mean, in our case, real time, you know, 8 years later, where we were able to come back, or no, not 8 years. It wasn't 2008. It was 2004. Or wait.
Yeah, that's 8 years. 2012 to 2004.
Oh, okay.
That's 8 years.
See, I'm accidentally doing correct math.
I'm infecting you, Tad.
I'm accidentally doing correct math. So yeah, for us,
you got there right. You just got there in the wrong way.
Yeah. So for us, ultimately, it was a return to the Dark Tower world, but also to start the book off, and you've got the quartet back, and you kind of realize where you're at timeline wise. It's such a breath of fresh air that I always tell people, whether it's on Twitter, Reddit, wherever, when people are asking, because this gets asked all the time, where do you read this book? And I will never change my answer. If you are a repeat reader at that point and you want to put it where it belongs, I'm okay with that. But I would say if anyone's asking, they're probably first-time readers. I'm never going to tell you to read it in between 4 and 5. For me, that's me. But what do you think?
I'm actually, with this read-through, I actually developed a new opinion, and I actually wrote this down. The reasoning behind it is that this is the first time, this is my third or fourth time reading The Wind Through the Keyhole. The first time was just reading it.
First time,
paperback.
2012, yeah.
Yeah, I went and bought the paperback when it came out, like the day it released and everything.
Are you sure it was paperback? Because they usually don't drop paperbacks till months later.
They dropped a paperback because it was skinny. I remember it being skinny and hating it for some reason. But I hate hardback. So maybe it wasn't release day, but I remember when I found out that paperback was, so it was the paperback release is what it was.
Yeah.
But I went and got the paperback, and I think I read it in 2 days. The only reason I had to stop was because I had to work one of those days.
Oh, yeah.
So it's by King standards, it's not a super long one or anything like that.
No, not at all.
But-
and even for Dark Tower, like, I mean, certainly Gunslinger's shorter, but is there any other one shorter than this?
And Drawing of the Three and Wind Through the Keyhole seem about the same size.
Yeah, not too far off.
Not too far off. I'd have to look it up and see. But there, I read it right after I finished a reread, because I did the reread up to Wind Through the Keyhole, because I didn't know what I was getting.
Yeah.
You know? We didn't have the show to talk about it and everything then. So I was just like, all right, new Dark Tower book. It's somewhere in the midst of the 7 books is what we knew.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just going to read the 7 books, and then I'm going to go read this. And the next time I read it, I'll figure out where it goes.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, is I read it. And then the next time through the saga, 1, 2, 3, 4, Wind Through the Keyhole, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Is what I did. And then I think I've read it. I haven't read it since then. So this is my 3rd time through the Wind Through the Keyhole, and it's the first time that I've ever read it as a separate
in a vacuum.
as a separate book in a vacuum, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to read it. I think that you read the 7 Dark Tower books, you read something else, maybe 2 or 3 things, and then you come to Wind Through the Keyhole, because then you're going to come at it like I did this time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really refreshing to see some characters again.
Yeah.
To get introduced to new things again and everything like that. Versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, Wind Through the Keyhole.
Yeah.
Or 1, 2, 3, 4, Wind Through the Keyhole.
I mean,
5, 6,
you got to
7.
go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, and then Wind Through the Keyhole, right? You got to reread book 1.
Got to do the cycle. But it's just, I think it's a good place to put it, is in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Because
that's a good thought. Yeah.
It is actually, I mean, you're doing it now, aren't you, too?
Yeah, when I read it...
You finished it this time in a vacuum, too. What do you think about that?
No, for sure. But I will say, this is an interesting admission. I've never actually read it in the context of the series. Every time I've read it has just been on its own.
And how much do you like it that way?
I do enjoy it. I would like to try the other side at some point. Maybe later this year as I get into Dark Tower. Because
that'll be a quick turnaround for you to reread it.
No, but I think it'd be kind of interesting to place it in the middle to kind of see how it does flow. Mm-hmm. I do think it's very jarring to stop the story that long. But knowing what the story is, I don't think we care as much, right? It's like The Stand for me. Because I've read it so many times now, there's never a point when I'm like, this part of the story drags a little bit. No, it's like I savor every fucking syllable because it's like I love this story. I want it to last longer. So yeah, but it's strange for me. I've never put it in the context of the overall series, but I think if I were going to, generally speaking, if I'm going to give it to a new person, I'd say you absolutely have to save it for the end. Don't stick it in the middle, because again, I think it breaks the flow. But also, the absolute joy for me was like revisiting these characters after everything that 7 did to me. That was the biggest takeaway I had in 2012 when I read it. Was just like, holy shit, I'm seeing these characters again. I'm seeing more of Roland's world. There's a number of world building elements to it, which I absolutely adored. And it was just a breath of fresh air. And I think you're going to absolutely lose that if you drop it in the middle. So yeah, again, if you're rereading, have at it. Throw it there in between 4 and 5, because you already know the whole story. You're not necessarily going to miss all the characters. You're going to savor every moment you have with them, because you know when those moments are going to come, right? So
I'm not opposed to that, especially for first-time readers. I'm just saying that for me,
in a vacuum, that's interesting.
In a vacuum is the most enjoyable I've had for Wind Through the Keyhole, is where it's just Wind Through the Keyhole. It's just those 2 stories.
You know what that excites me about is that's what I've been saying I want to do with book 6. Because I think so many people give shit to book 6 because it's just so jammed between 5 and 7 that I don't think a lot of people really consider what is 6 on its own. So I've said before, I want to just read it on its own, outside of the entire saga. Just read 6 to let it feel like its own book and see what it actually looks like.
There is so much in book 5 and book 7. I mean, you got the whole thing with the wolves and everything like that in book 5. Also the realization of Susanna's pregnancy and everything. And then book 7 obviously is book 7. I mean, we get the death of over half of the quartet. In there, and
Randall Flagg.
And the worst villain in the whole story So,
Oh man. So I know we're kind of just looking over, but I mean this is going to kind of jump a little bit later into it. But toward the end, when Tim is talking to Merlin, he's asked about I just blanked on what they call him in this story. Flag. Is the I forget the freaking nickname they.
it is
The tax. He's the tax collector.
Covenant Man.
Covenant Man. Yes. So when he's asking about the Covenant Man, he basically says like, because Merlin's talking about the larger evil, and he's like, oh, the Covenant Man. He's like, no. He's like the one that he works for, and he's like, hell, he's not even the biggest in the arsenal of the one I'm talking. The Red King, I think he calls him that.
Is what they call him. Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing, because we don't really see anything else that big outside. Like they would be bigger than Flag. We don't see.
We see the wolves. We see the Taheen.
We
see vampires.
Yeah.
We see the low men.
Yeah.
We see
But
Mordred.
Yeah.
Dandelo.
But Mordred doesn't exist yet. Dandelo, yeah.
Well, but that's what the king is working towards, right? I mean, that's as early as book 3 that he's working on that.
Yeah.
So,
but ultimately, Tim Stoutheart, that's the other weird thing is that we'll get to that in a second. But ultimately, I guess what it comes down to though is that for him to say that makes me think like, man, what have we not seen? What other elements does the Crimson King have? What other pieces does he have on the board that we haven't seen? Because ultimately,
had.
That's true.
That's the other thing also to remember is that he wiped out his entire country.
Yeah.
Like, poisoned everyone. It's not Dandelo, it's the other one that says it, right? The one that's like 3 people.
Oh yeah.
It's not Dandelo. What's that one called?
I always forget. It's like it sounds like something from a fairy tale, which is very fitting here.
He kind of looks like King a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But that one says like, yeah, he poisoned everyone. So you could have seen something there just die by the hand of the Crimson King that would have destroyed the quartet.
Yeah.
For all we know.
It's interesting because that's a new wrinkle that I guess I've never really considered before. Because you're right. There's a number of things we see that are in the King's realm, but nothing comes close to the level of Flag. Most of the others seem a little bit more like foot soldiery. You know, I guess you could argue Dandelo. You could argue
the vampires are never bested.
The highest vampire. Straker stuck in my head from freaking Pet Cemetery or from Salem's Lot.
Barlow?
Or Barlow. Yeah, I'm thinking of the familiar. But you could.
There's the 3 vampires
you could argue
in the
them.
Dixie Pig because that's like Callahan instantly pinpoints them when he walks into the Dixie Pig, and it's like, oh, it's 3 of them.
Yeah.
I faced 1. There's 3 over there. I got to protect Jake, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he does, but Roland never goes up against anything like that we see.
Yeah.
So it's just, maybe that's what they're talking about is some of those soldiers that Roland doesn't come across.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's plenty. I'm sure there are. So overall, the structure too is an interesting thing with this one. So I'm always reminded of book 1 because book 1 it's like flashback and then flashback and then flashback, and it just keeps flashing back to different, and this is kind of the same way, right? It's like, so you start with Roland and the quartet. They're going to encounter a Stark blast. They're all chilling in a little building and stuff. And then it's like, okay, tell us the story. So then inside of this story, Roland tells a story. And inside that story, he tells another story. So it's just like, and then the way that the King structures the book is you get like the first half of young Roland's story. Then we stop to get the fairy tale, basically, that Roland grew up learning, that he tells the kid
that his mom used to tell him.
That his mom told him. And then after that whole thing's done, you jump back to
young
Roland again to finish that story. And then after all that, you finish the content. It's an interestingly structured.
Yeah.
I think King loves, I wonder if it's just like the more advanced writer, right? Like a more simple writer that's maybe newer, a green around the gills. They're not going to be able to handle that kind of stuff. So I wonder, is it kind of like where like Jordan like would like throw three throws with his eyes closed? Because there comes a point when like you're so good at what you do. King, yeah, exactly.
Why not?
Because the structure of this one's insane, to be honest. Like,
Carol says, "Wind Through the Keyhole" is Dark Tower's Inception.
It really is. I've thought of that multiple times. I'm like, I need an Inception button while I'm reading this book.
Yeah.
So, it's very. I love it. Did it? Do you? I guess because I could say maybe some people like that structure could take it away from people, take them out of the story or something. For me, I really enjoyed it. What about you?
Oh, I loved it. It's the big thing for Wind Through the Keyhole that it gave me is a little bit more insight into Roland, and also something that we don't get is Roland's relationship with his mother before the affair.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that she told him as a small child.
Yeah.
Which is right up your alley, telling them a fucking horror story. Jesus Christ. About things getting their, people getting eaten by dragons and tigers and shit like that. Yeah, let's terrify kids before sending them to bed. Okay.
I mean,
way to go,
not?
Gabrielle. Jesus.
What does good old Alfred Hitchcock say? One is the first thing most of us say to a baby is boo.
Yeah. It's true. You're not. I mean, he's not wrong, but I don't think I think the context is taken a little bit out there. Like, you're not going boo. You're going boo.
Nah,
boo.
It depends on who you are, I guess.
you monster.
Hey, I would say there's a lot of the stories you tell kids that have elements of horror.
Every story basically seems like, like
it's like, oh, this little kid has his parents, and his parents are brutally murdered by a freaking wolf, and it's like, oh, okay.
Hansel and Gretel, their mother died, and then the witch tries to eat them. It's like, what are you telling my 3-year-old right now, Grandma? Like, oh my God!
And they drop the witch into the fire,
and she burns alive.
Oh, I love it. Not to mention, we get into Grimm's fairy tales.
I was going to say, thanks, Grimm's fairy tales. Jesus,
get into the whole realm of their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Is there anything else I missed in the chat? Have you been keeping an eye on it here?
Nothing yet. No, nothing.
Oh, Carol did say, just need to report this has been an ongoing thing. And just finally met another Stephen King and specifically Dark Tower fellow fan nerd geek here in Hawaii. I can't be happier. I couldn't be happier. That's awesome. Because that is
awesome.
King's obviously very big. There's a lot of people who are King fans, but in the larger context of like pop culture, he really isn't. Sometimes finding a King fan is it's a happy thing in general. So that's awesome.
I've found that over the course of my becoming a King fan in high school and post high school and everything, like the years in between, 20 years next year. I feel old.
Yeah.
I've found that it's like, hey, you like to read? Yeah. Have you ever read Stephen King? No, I don't like horror novels. And it's like, there's more than that. There's more than that.
Agamorbiel says Holly is a gunslinger. My goofy brain just now thought, what if Holly met Roland? And honestly, I have had that thought before.
We've talked about that, haven't we?
I would love that so much because that's some of the charm of a lot of what King does is it kind of has that old Marvel Comics vibe where like the shit's all connected in some way or another. And like, honestly, like I would say like the chances are low. I would say the chances are near zero. Let's go Oppenheimer here. The chances are near zero that Holly and Roland ever cross paths, but I do believe there's another Dark Tower book somewhere in the future. I do believe that.
I hope so.
And then now Holly is obviously a big character. If King were to write another Dark Tower book, I just wonder if who else other than Holly would show up.
There's a crossover and she's there.
Yeah, indeed. I don't want to go too far on this tangent, but if you're going to place Holly and replace someone in the Dark Tower with her, that has to be in our world, not like the TET members, but like your John Cullums, your Irene Tassenbaums, your Aaron Deepnose, your like those small helpful characters. Where would you plug her in?
They don't spend much time in our world.
No, they don't. That's why I said it had to be one of those minor characters where, you don't really get as much from them.
Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb and I'm gonna say that I don't want her to meet Roland.
Okay.
I want her to be a member of the Tech Corporation. I want her to get hired by Moses Carver. Dude, could you imagine that Moses Carver's granddaughter? Have her hire Holly to come on as a permanent, like, hey, we need your help beating the shit out of this evil corporation. Help us.
Like I've told you before, I want like a Holly Gibney X-Files where it's just her exploring the King universe. And I would break the timeline for this show and I would just be like, she could pop up in different places. But it's like, wouldn't the Tech Corporation be a perfect backing company that hires her for this? Or it's like, hey,
we hear about this weird thing going on up in Derry, Maine. Can you go check it out for us?
Exactly. Sorry, that's a tangent. But two stories: Skin Man story and Tim Stouthart. Those are the two main stories we're talking about here. What I guess of the two, do you prefer one over the other?
Skin Man.
Really? Okay, I've seen both. online just in general in some conversations. People pick both, so it's kind of interesting because it doesn't.
It's simple. I'm a Dark Tower fan.
Yeah,
That's a gunslinger story. I mean, hook it to my veins.
I mean
That's what it comes down to, is that if you're going to give me anything gunslinger, I would take Steven's great-grandfather's gunslinger stories
and look who you're talking
over
to.
fairy tales from Roland's
But
world.
here's the thing, though. Fairy tales stories tell a lot
They
about
do.
a culture. So I think that's an interesting thing, and
They do.
I can't wait to talk about that probably more in the book club when we actually have time to really stretch our legs. Is what is this story? What does it really tell us about like Roland's world?
Roland's culture and Gilead as a whole, because it's like it's a big thing in Star Wars. We have a character named Grand Admiral Thrawn who studies art and history and literature of the people that he's about to fight, and he discerns how they're going to act from that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is like, this tells you a lot about Gilead when they're telling Tim Stoutheart to their young children.
Yeah.
That's the story that they tell to their nobility, their
Yeah.
future gunslingers. This is
Yeah.
the story that they want them to learn.
And here's the question I have. So this is a fairy tale, right? Like that's how you interpret it. That's how I interpret it. But Flag shows up in there. And not only that,
I have a theory about that, and I wrote it down. It's on it now.
At the end of that, also, they spin it to where he becomes a gunslinger. Like, he becomes one of the only gunslingers that's not truly
Of
of the
the
line
Eld.
of Eld.
Yep.
So it's just like, maybe this is a thing of his world where it's like, because that turns into like beyond fairy tales in our world. What is that more like not urban legends, like tall tales, urban legends, like things that like maybe like, I don't know. There's like a
It's
weird
a way
blurring.
of explain. It's something that I've been fascinated with, and I've talked about it on the show and on Geekery Abides and with you in person before the shows and everything like that. I love when they take something that happened and explain it in a way that fits to a legend or a mythos or something like that. Achilles in Troy is the number one example that I always use. He takes 4 or 5 arrows to the chest, but he pulls all of them out. But the one in his ankle, the first shot, is the only one that's still in when they find his dead body, which comes to the Achilles heel thing.
Yeah.
Paul Bunyan making the Great Lakes and stuff like that. That is a story. But if you look at the map and you like people actually like look at it like, was there a giant walking around? There's so many fucking lakes up there, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love building
real
world stuff from that. My theory behind Flag and
also the mentions of like the Crimson King and like
North
the
Central Positronics
the-
is mentioned.
Yeah, and the pieces on
All
his
of that,
board, right? Like
I guarantee you that is Roland's touch to the story.
you think so?
That's my personal takeaway from it. I don't think Gabrielle's telling Roland that her affair lover is the taxman.
Well, and that's the thing is, it's not even overt.
No.
We know it as readers
know it.
because, like, when he signs, it's like RFMB, right?
Yes.
Martin Broadcloak.
Right. And
yeah.
that's what I'm saying is I think that's Roland's personal touch to the story.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. Would Gabrielle even know what North Central Positronics fucking is?
No, but here's my one pushback because I disagree. I don't know if Roland has that element to his mind to add that. I think that's a little bit beyond his plotter's mind to like throw in his own seasoning to a story.
He's not changing the story. He's just adding just a little bit that let's make this character more malicious for someone that they just met. You got to
Maybe.
realize when this takes place. Him telling this story to them inside of the story, he could be altering the story that he told to Bill inside of his original story. He's altering it because he's technically telling that story to the original quartet who just got out of the Wizard of Oz palace facing Randall Flagg for the first time.
Yeah,
It could just
maybe.
be him putting a personal touch on it. Some of the other stuff, absolutely, I see where you're coming from. And the Red King, that could have just been the big bad from Gilead, you know?
Yeah,
we could have had
they would have known about the Crimson King.
well, the Crimson King's
Certainly.
the Crimson King is in the comics, isn't he?
Yeah, and
So-
he's stuck in the tower, like because that's said in the story too. That they asked something about. He asked if he's trapped. Saying no, the king is trapped though.
How did the Red King catch thee? He can't anymore, Tim. He caught him. He himself
is
caught.
caught, yeah.
Pent at the top of the Dark Tower. But he has his powers and he has his emissaries.
Yeah.
That's what he talks about.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where I pulled that up specifically because that's one of my notes. Is like, holy fuck, the Red King's caught. How did Roland know this so early and
Yeah.
everything like that? But I think that might be something that may be a little bit misconstrued in Book 7, where the Crimson King, they make it seem like the Crimson King left like minutes before Roland arrived.
Yeah.
He didn't.
No.
He left a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he's been trapped on the Dark Tower, which is why he's gone mad.
Yeah, he's been there for a while.
Yes.
He's not just there for 10 minutes and goes mad. Like, no,
I literally had to pull that up on script just because I knew that was going to come up. But I just think that it fits so well that Roland would add these little nuances in there, because you're going to have someone like Eddie who's going to want that kind of shit.
Yeah, I guess to me, again, it's Roland. Roland. If it was Cuthbert telling the story, I would give credit to that. Like, I think he would do stuff like that. Flag would do that. I just don't know if Roland has that kind of mind. To me, I feel like Roland's kind of the dumb jock a little bit.
I have one argument against what you're saying. What is Book 4 if not him telling a beautiful story?
Yeah,
you're telling me that you're saying that Roland can't tell a beautiful story and can't add things to it.
I think I think it's the cleverness of adding to it for the benefit of your audience, because I think that's like it's kind of like a joke. Like there's a certain level of comedian, and I think when you get to a certain level is when you start to like really tailor your jokes for like the audience you're talking to, right? And not just the cheesy like, oh, I couldn't buy a beer in Utah. Like, no, like there's like, I don't know, you could get those next level comedians, and I just don't know if Roland's mind. That's not how I've interpreted Roland to be that way. He's the plotter. He's the one that can't think around corners, and like those are the kind of things, I guess, for me. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I guess it doesn't work for me as much. But again, that leaves a bunch of weird questions where it's like, what the fuck, like But maybe what it could come down to, there are, like we talked about, tall tales, urban legend type things that are based out of reality. Maybe the original story that he was told included all these things, and like, because again, what are they going to know about RFMB?
Yeah,
like that could be anything like that. Yeah. Like, it doesn't, like, it's like the whole Breaking Bad WW.
Randall Flagg,
what does
Randall
that mean?
Flagg
right?
existed before Roland even really became a gunslinger.
Yeah,
so RF could have been something that was inserted into that story around that time. So Roland may have grown up hearing that version of it. Well, so it's not him. It's not him being creative and adding his own personal touch to it.
He's just conveying it as it is.
He's just conveying how he heard it.
The cool thing too, though, is again, it never says Randall Flagg. It's always the initials. So it's like this could just.
It makes us say it.
Yeah, we think it, but like it's not there in the story. So he's like, he doesn't know Martin Broadcloak. I don't know that anyone in Gilead knows the name Randall Flagg, but they all know Martin Broadcloak. That's a name they all know. But connecting WW, or it's like WW and Breaking Bad, right? It's like he's asking him that. It's like, what is this inscription? What do you think WW means? Like Walter White, it could be, but it's like, no, there's Walt Whitman. There's all these other things. Like initials aren't indicting enough, and I just wonder if there's anyone that wouldn't be considered crazy to look at and go, wait, MB is Martin Broad. Like, no. Well, and it's a second initial that's given too, right? RFMB. Yes. So it's like, it'd be easy for people to just blow by that. They know those are the letters. Maybe that's even letters that stick in people's heads, where it's just like, those are the letters from the Tim Stouthart story. But they don't necessarily try to connect them to someone going, wait a minute, you're the guy from the fucking fairy tale. Yeah. No, that's...
What about if it's this, okay? Martin Broadcloak is probably pretty synonymous with the fall of Gilead, right? Which happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Roland's been chasing the Man in Black for a long time. What if that story evolved from the survivors of Gilead and Roland's just heard it from other survivors? I mean, Roland's not just traveling in just a desert. He goes through towns, he meets people, he talks to people and everything like that. So what if someone else changed the story and Roland just picked it up and said, oh, I like that version. That's not the version I grew up on.
Even unconsciously. Like,
maybe that's it, or maybe King changed it, and Roland just has to do what God tells him to. Because
what do they say? You never remember an actual event; you just remember the last time you remembered it.
Exactly.
So it's like that's where people can actually get to the spot where they've something that happened to you 20 years ago. Like you may be absolutely convinced that I said something a certain way, but it's like I'm like, no, I remember it differently, and we both aren't necessarily wrong. We both
just how we remember it.
Yeah, because again,
we've had conversations about things that have happened in the past, and I'm like, I remember it happening this way, and you're like, no, I remember this happening, and I'm like, oh, and that triggers a memory that I didn't have from my last time remembering because I wasn't with you the last time I talked about it.
Yeah, and so if he just picked up, because I guess what's interesting though is because again we talked about like what does this all mean in terms of like there's larger pieces around a flag, but again this is part of the fairy tale. We've got to remember,
right? This isn't the Skin Man thing where it's like a report.
No,
This is
yeah.
not what he says actually happened. This is a fairy tale.
But it's very interesting, though, because it does add to this world a little bit.
Yes.
But it also adds it in a way to where we can't, like, definitively say this changes everything
Yeah.
in the Tim Stouthart side.
Okay, I have to talk about something from that aspect, exactly what you just said, where something in the Tim Stouthart story makes me go, oh my God, that's proof. I had it written down as a note, and I changed it. My original note was, Daria, the handheld companion from the Swamp People, proves that Roland's world is a post-apocalyptic version of our world in the future because she says that she loses connections to a satellite. And I'm like, that's proof. And literally 5 minutes later while listening, I had to pause my book. And I don't know if you noticed this because this happened at work when I was listening. I paused, I put my head in my hands, and I went, it's a fucking story. It's a fairy tale. There is no proof. That's just a fucking story. But that's always been a question. Is this our world? Is this Roland's world? You know, they talk about like a great cataclysm. Cataclysm that something happened, catastrophe happened.
Yeah.
And Roland's world moved on. But we don't know what that was. Was that meaning there's hints that it's our world, the Beatles, the fuel pump, Cisco, all that kind of stuff that we're like, man, that's our fucking world, right?
Yeah.
But we never get that confirmation. I'm like, I got it. Satellite.
Yeah.
We have satellites. That's absolutely a version of our world. But it's just in the story. But then my question is, who the fuck heard the word satellite and inserted that into the story? So I'm like, dude, my brain like almost exploded.
Here's the
day.
thing I'm going to add to it, though. Who's to say the great old ones didn't have satellites?
Yeah, who knows?
Blaine has a dish on his...
That's got to connect to something, right? Yeah.
So,
and if he has cameras showing the Dark Tower,
so he
from
at one point
wheels and wheels away.
Yeah, at some point there was a network that connected the entire thing together. So
basically, I'm Peter's version, Peter's thought process, Peter's canon. Let's call it that. Peter's canon, not Dark Tower canon.
Yeah,
Peter's canon. Roland's world is a post-apocalyptic version of ours.
Okay.
Where in the rebuilding, Gilead climbed and was built up to be the new civilization in world. And then there's outworld, midworld, all that stuff. Because of that, I think we have enough indication now from stories, from just assumptions like that. How could Blaine be connected to the Dark Tower if not through a satellite network?
Yeah.
A satellite network implies that they launched at some point rockets into space.
Yeah.
And everything.
Which, isn't that small potatoes compared to a train that goes 800 miles an hour?
Right?
Like,
we talked about
like
that
when
we covered
ones,
that.
I think we've talked about the great old ones are well beyond in our book club. It's like they're beyond us. Like, you know, we there's certain elements of this world we look at and go, whoa, we're well beyond that. But then they've got giant robotic bears. They've got, like, look, what is the wall?
A cyborg bear. There's nothing on Earth that is a cyborg.
No, the wall that's on the outside of Lud when Blaine goes out. That's like a 800-900 foot like carved
Huge
wall. Like
no, I thought it was over 1,000
built.
feet.
Like it's massive though. Like and I don't mean carved like carved, but it's man made. This isn't just a rock face of a natural formation no. This is like a built fucking thing. Like in other ways, they are so far beyond us.
Yes.
I mean, sentient AI, right? I mean, we're not there yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet in our world. And King wrote this in the early 90s, so it's like even when he wrote this, that was probably even more out there. So, it's...
he had the movie Alien to go off of for robots.
Mother.
You know?
Indeed.
Sorry, that's been on my brain ever since our Discord chat about it last night. So.
No, that's fine. It's a wonderful movie.
Which you can get access to if you join us on Patreon.
Good old Ash, right?
Yeah.
I will also say, if we're talking Tad canon here.
Okay, let's go with Tad
There
canon.
was a certain point when the Tim is slightly concerned about being bit by a billy bumbler, which makes me wonder if billy bumblers
You stop it. You stop it.
Tend to bite children.
A good dog will bite too if you piss it off enough. Don't even. What are you going to say? All dogs are evil now? Is that what you're saying, Tad?
Oh, no, I'm just saying billy bumblers
Stop
should be
it.
kept away from children. They're dangerous.
Stop it.
Them and their razor teeth. And
You stop it. If it wasn't for the Billy Bumblers, he wouldn't have known about the Stark Blast.
So what do you think of the Stark Blast, by the way, now that, while we're on
terrifying.
it? Like, it just...
Makes trees explode?
Like, I was going to say, like, we just talked about in the book clubs in the last number of episodes, something with the Blaine or the Ludd stuff where it's just like, or no, it was in this one in book 4. I'm trying to remember what it was, but because I remember asking the question: is there anything in this world that's just nice or benign?
Thinnies. We were talking about thinnies.
Yeah,
because Roland talks about how dangerous they are and everything. We're like, God, can't there just be one thing that's just not bad?
And then here comes Stark Blast.
Yeah, now we get Stark Blast.
Just terrifying, like absolutely terrifying. Like the thought of them.
Yeah.
And then I do love the that eerie nature too when wildlife reacts to natural disasters.
Animals lay down when an earthquake's coming, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or like you see birds start flocking a different direction because like a tsunami. There's like all these weird things you see where it's just like, that is not a comforting thing. It's like, hey, these birds should be flying south. Wait, they're flying north. I wonder why. Like, that's not fun. So Skin Man story on that side of it. So what we could not to say we can't talk more about Tim if we want to.
Yeah.
But we haven't really touched as much on the Skin Man story. So we're talking,
which was my favorite. It was. It really was. And the reason
especially early for me, the world building stuff, like you're seeing Stephen Deshane again. You're seeing
they have a working train, barely.
Yeah, working train. You're seeing like how gunslingers are deployed, even if they are young ones. Like this is the palace type shit that like I love, man. Like I want more of this. So to get this, I really love that. But then as you get out into Dabaria and stuff, like there's all kinds of really cool stuff going on.
I got the sense that Dabaria reminded me of like a original Tull, like what Tull might have been, 150 years before Roland walks in with his donkey.
I wonder what kind of town Tull was originally. Like, was it a mining town? Was it just like one of those like because I always think
it was along the path, right? Like along the path there, because there's a way station on the other side of the desert too. So there had to be some reason to go through there.
Yeah.
But I picture it as
they're farming too, because you got the beans and stuff, right? So
yeah. So I picture that's all it is like a little small farming community, but also has a couple shops and a stable for people that are passing through. But they also talk about a stagecoach used to come through, and then it stopped.
Yeah.
So that's what I picture is kind of like river crossing.
Yeah.
That's river crossing and Tull are basically the same thing to me.
Yeah.
They're close to a big city probably. Maybe there was something on the other side of the mountain or something the other way in the desert. Instead of going towards the mountains, you go this way from Tull. Instead of going left, you go right. And there's another Ludd.
Yeah, and Dabaria is certainly mining, right? That's
it's right next to the salt mines.
Yeah, so it's a mine. Like Tombstone back in the day was a mining city.
Copper? No, silver.
Yeah, all the whole gold and rush and all the different things. There's all different areas where it's like, you can find bronze here, silver here, gold. Like there's like all these different things you can find in different areas. So people flock to those certain areas trying to make their.
And if you look at it now, all of a sudden we have freeways connecting all those cities.
Yeah, some of them.
Some of them. No, there's ghost ones too.
Yeah, Tombstone didn't really grow.
No.
So
is Tombstone a ghost town? Is it dead?
No, it's touristy now. I don't know what it was, but
okay.
I know it's like a little tourist type thing.
Were you the one that sent me the ghost town in Utah one, or did I just stumble across that one?
I don't know. Ghost towns are fun though.
Dude, there's a ghost town one here in Utah, and I was like, I want to go.
Yeah, that's fun stuff. So one thing I'm going to ask on the Skin Man side and this side of it specifically, talking about like Gilead and stuff. What do you think of Jamie?
I like Jamie.
Yeah,
he's a nice change of pace from Cuthbert.
And to me, I just didn't feel like I knew him any better having read this than I did before. Like I just feel like because he like that's what they play him off as. He's this quiet type. He doesn't really speak up much. But it's like because of that, like I just don't feel like we learned a lot about him.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know. It's like, in my head, I was like, I've forgotten most of the shit about Jamie because it's been a while since I've read this. It's probably been, 10 years ago. Would have been 2013, a year after it came out. I think I read it in probably 15 or so, and that's probably the last time I read it. I don't know why, just because. But I remember everything that they've told us about Jamie that we learned about him, I've forgotten. Having read it again, I'm like, no, there's just nothing here.
There's just nothing there.
Like, and I get it. I don't think you need it. You don't need Cuthbert and that personality with this story. Although I would have taken it.
Oh my God.
I would have taken that by any means. But yeah, I don't know. I was just curious if
there's a couple reasons why the Skin Man is more favorable to me than Tim Stouthart. Is that one? I love a whodunit.
Oh, that too, yeah.
I love a whodunit.
Especially a beastie one.
Beasties also is a great thing, like that is one of my greatest fears is something shape
shape-shifting, yeah.
into different
Into
beasties,
like an 800-pound bear, in
or
one
an
case.
alligator, or
Yeah.
a snake.
A snake, alligator person.
Well, it does a snake in the jail. It does
Yeah.
an alligator at Serenity and a bear at the ranch.
Yeah, they talk about it in the jail where it's like they call it a snake, but like it kind of seems like it looks like a gator too, because like the human part of it, like
Yeah, but he was mid transformation into a snake.
yeah. So
But he was an alligator at Serenity.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, like all the beasties that I'm not a fan of, kind of thing, especially like ambush predators like alligators and stuff like that. Not a fan. Don't like it. I don't like walking through the bayou in any game, any game that's like, okay, we got to walk over there, and I'm just like, fuck this. You go slow. There's gators. Like Red Dead Redemption 2, when I have to go through the swamp and pick orchids and stuff like that, I get pissed.
Yeah.
Fuck, I hate this.
I just find there's one spot that has most of the things that will spawn. I'll just go in, like kind of look around and kill every gator.
Oh, you'll just massacre them?
Massacre every one of them.
I shoot near their butts and they go running off.
Oh, you're kinder than I am.
Yeah. We know this, Tad. That's, again, blue, red.
I also don't skin them or anything. I just leave them to rot after.
You don't even make money or take the
Nope.
meat or anything.
I'm just getting there so I don't get eaten. Yeah, no, but I'm not saying I dislike Jamie.
No,
I
obviously.
just wish I would have learned more about him. I just feel like I have way bigger understanding of who like Alan or Cuthbert is, who they are after the book 4 stuff, which we're going to be covering over the next couple years. But with Jamie, I'm just like, wow, man, you don't get.
I think that was kind of the
much from
point,
it.
is that because if Roland gave us too much, I'm sorry, if King gave us too much, Roland,
Yeah,
he's the one
well,
telling
no,
the
the same
story.
thing too, right?
But if,
like, yeah,
if King gave us too much about Jamie to Curry, we'd just be pining for more, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
already are for Alan and Cuthbert especially. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people like Cuthbert, myself included, where we're just like, God, I would just love to have a book of Roland and Cuthbert's first 10 missions together.
What about
you know?
Steven talking shit on Cuthbert when Roland asked about taking him? You know,
Are you surprised? Like, it's not surprising.
not taking that clown with you, no.
Yeah.
So with I guess so. Skin Man's your preferred.
Yeah.
When we see this adapted, is that what you're most excited to see out of this?
Absolutely.
Is
Again, a whodunit plus. Okay, so the big thing is that it's Roland. Like, Tim Stouthart is great. He's a fantastic character, and I love the story of the Wind Through the Keyhole and everything like that.
Yeah.
But the Skin Man is Roland's first mission after Magus.
Yeah.
Like, he's killed his mother. He's lost Susan. He's seen the Dark Tower. Like, this is Roland's first. If you're making a Dark Tower series and you're going in chronological order from Hax the Cook, his trial, on through Magus and everything like that, you're going to see this after Wizarding Glass.
Yeah.
Is this mission and then other missions before Jericho Hill.
Yeah.
And everything where he's older and everything like that. That's years from now.
Yeah.
But to see that first one, take a character that you never see their backstory and stuff like that. Early Batman. It's like, dude, what's his origin story? Kind of thing.
Well,
we got his
not the actual origin story. We don't want the theater again.
not that. But what's his first mission as Batman?
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I love Year One, is seeing that becoming Batman. I'm a big fan of those.
Yeah.
Not the origin story, but the montage.
You don't want broken pearls anymore.
No, fuck that. So sick of that.
But okay, here's the thing. I will talk some shit on Stephen Deshane a little bit.
Yeah.
Would Cuthbert not have been the better one to send for a whodunit? Roland even says it at a certain point. He's like, these aren't my kind of things. Like, I wish Cuthbert was here because he's the kind that would pick up on certain elements and would have really helped in a whodunit type thing.
Absolutely, it would have helped, but it wouldn't have taught Roland anything.
No, yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing. I think that Roland needed to learn a lesson here, and I think he did.
Yeah.
He cost people lives. He got people killed.
Yeah.
Doing things the way
There's
he
quite a
does.
body count in this
There's
book, too.
quite a body count. I mean, you find out that, like, whole families have been destroyed. And not just men.
Yeah.
Women, children
Like,
have been ripped apart and everything.
As sad as it is to add into the real world element, but what do they call it? The family annihilators, the killers that go in and kill the entire family. Like, isn't that what they say? Is family annihilator is the technical term for like a killer who would like go into a house and just wipe everyone
like
out?
in Red Dragon?
Yeah.
He's not a serial killer. He's a family annihilator. I've never heard that term before.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I've never heard that.
I mean, whether it's still the term, but it was the term at a certain point when it came to like forensics and stuff.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So yeah, it's like that.
I've never heard that. That's interesting.
Yeah. The other thing I will point out just about the Tim side, this is very, very interesting to read now, having read Fairy Tale.
Yeah.
Just, King, because it is a straight up fairy tale, right? Like, but I think what's interesting is having read Fairy Tale, I think you understand like King really loves and appreciates fairy tales.
He likes stories.
I assume that, I think he likes stories in general for sure.
Yes.
But I think there's some element of his childhood that must have had fairy tales involved because he always, I don't know, because if fairy tales I wouldn't say are like the most popular thing nowadays. I don't think that a lot of kids, even our age, let alone younger, really grew up on fairy tales. But our parents or grandparents, they did. And I think King did. And I think that, so I think there's a loving element. It's kind of like George Lucas. There's times you could just see certain things that he's trying to like tribute, and you could see the love coming through his work towards what he's like pointing at. And I feel that here, and I felt that with Fairy Tale, and I'm just like, I feel like I took so much more of a grasp of that having read the actual book Fairy Tale. Like I think that informs this a little bit because it's just like interesting because I mean fairy tales have certain elements to them, and it just felt like very echoey, even though this came first, obviously. But it's like in my mind now, having not read this in a long time.
Yeah. You didn't remember a lot of it.
I didn't remember much of it. I remembered a few key things. But ultimately, reading Fairy Tale not that long ago, like it was very like reminiscent and echoey there. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things is before we get too far away from it, we're talking about Roland and solving things and getting around corners and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And how Cuthbert would help with them. My very first note that I took down while reading this was that Roland is talking about the Stark Blast, and Jake asks how the Billy Bumblers know it's coming. Roland says he doesn't know, and it says how and why of things never interested him much.
Yeah.
That's an internal thing.
Yeah.
That's not something that he says to Jake. It's
and
just
we
something
see
that's
that.
just like, and that's kind of what you were talking about with like him sprucing up the story and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that he doesn't think about
Yeah.
making it more enjoyable for them.
And we've
stuff
seen
like
that real time in the story. There was a time when everyone is really enthralled with something, and I'm trying to remember what it was. And they're also, and Roland just doesn't care. He's like,
we just covered it in a book club. He's walking away from them when they're looking at something on the platform.
Yeah, he's just.
All right.
He couldn't give a shit about it. Like it was just like,
he's
whatever.
like, I'm out.
This isn't important. And I think we see it later too. I think there's some stuff we see in like maybe 5 with some of the books or something.
Yeah.
There's some different times where like everyone on the New York side is really drawn by stuff, and Roland's just like, and like, what are we doing here? We're wasting our time. So I love that you're pointing that out, where it's like it's a good line here because it's a very good line that really does capture Roland in a nutshell.
And it just goes back to what we were talking about with like, could he have spruced up the story himself and everything? Another one that I have is this the first time that Jake gets a full blast of Detta? Think about where we're at in this book, right? Okay, so we get book 3.
Yeah.
Jake gets drawn.
Well, we just covered all this in book clubs, too, because I've actually been kind of thinking about it as we've gone through the book clubs, where I'm like, God, man, I thought Detta popped up more than she did. And
she doesn't,
She really
right?
doesn't, no.
So Susanna gets pissed at the chimney dropping soot on her, and Detta comes out with a serious profanity-laced tirade. And this is the first time Jake gets a glimpse of a full Detta. Not a muttered swear or not a God damn it or
yeah.
God, no, this is like a full-on, you son of a... It sounds like Morse code out there, if you bleep out and everything. So I just thought it was interesting because Jake also reacts, and he just kind of is just like, whoa, like a little bit,
you know, better swears than my dad did, or something.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. And so I just had to take a note of that because it's like, this didn't come until after the series was done, is that we get that first interaction between Detta and Jake. Those two characters don't interact very much, if at all.
No, yeah.
So it's kind of cool for King.
Probably on purpose. I'm sure Susanna holds that back as much as possible around him.
She lets it slip a little bit more when it's just Roland or Eddie or other people with her.
Yeah.
But when Jake's around, it's just like, I get around my family who's religious and I don't swear.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. I had to make a note of that.
Yeah. So I think there's no way to ask this question without getting into one of the big things. What do you think that is the biggest addition that this book brings to the overall Dark Tower narrative?
I think this just adds further fuel to the fire. What we talked about. This is confirmation that Roland's world is not confirmation, just further evidence, further examples of Roland's world is an apocalyptic version of our own in the future.
Okay.
It's a different time. It's further in the, we've had our civilization, the great ones, rise, fall, Gilead built, fall, and we're now in this third era, if you Lord of the Rings-ish, third era. I think that's one of the biggest things that comes away from this is that there's so much evidence added through Wind Through the Keyhole. And I think maybe King, I don't know if King did it subconsciously or consciously, where he's like satellites and this and that, and there's so many different things in there that are hinting at our way of life. We got diesel trains.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Not high-tech locomotives. A fucking diesel train is what takes them to Dabaria.
Yeah.
So I just kind of I kind of feel like, okay, not diesel, a coal train, sorry. Steam powered.
Steam powered. Yeah.
Steam powered, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
But
Old West.
Old West timey style thing and everything like that. I think that's my biggest takeaway from this is seeing more and more added to that world building of, okay, this isn't some random world where Gilead existed and the Great Ones were some other kind of people. No, that was us.
Yeah.
Like that was a version of our world, but it's farther along.
And for me, I bounce on both sides of it. I think right now I'm a little bit more in the it's not our world, but it's very close. Like it's close enough to our world.
I mean, obviously, each level of the tower is different. Like
Yeah.
we've talked about that, but what I mean is like when I first read the Dark Tower, if you're going to put it on a spectrum of here's our world and here's Roland's world, that's what I would have done. Is I would have put them on opposite ends of the spectrum. There's a couple similarities here and there.
Yeah,
and
there's
like
some
that.
crossover.
There's some crossover, but that's probably someone just bringing it through the door. I'm starting to not believe that anymore.
Okay.
I think doors are rare. I think that they're held for specific types of people, and I think that the crossover that I used to see is actually the saturation of they're actually right next door to each other.
Yeah.
I think Roland's world and Jake and Susanna and Eddie's world are fucking neighbors.
Yeah.
Like there's very differences between Susanna's, Eddie's, and Jake's. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Oh, they may not actually be pulled from the same world.
Yeah.
Eddie and Jake are the one argument against that because
they're close enough to where there's versions of them
of themselves.
In
but
each
is that
other's.
the Eddie that gets pulled is from Jake's world? We have no confirmation of
there's
that.
no way to know for sure.
But I think that's just it's moved it way across the spectrum for me that it's basically touching our world.
Yeah.
Keystone Earth. You know?
Yeah. I have one tangent thing I have down here that I should have hit before we got into this conversation. But is this the first time the genre of fairy tales enters the Dark Tower universe? This series has so many genres, but is Tim Stoutheart, is that the first like full on fairy tale that's been brought into this? Like we've seen horror, western, action, drama, like samurai of like Seven Samurai shit. Like this series, vampire, we bounce all over the spectrum. But fairy tale, is this the only like
I think it is
appearance of which again like
Roland doesn't sit down and tell him a fairy. I mean, he might have just not on camera.
Yeah,
everything.
nothing that we see. So it's just interesting because again, flashing into
no, it's the second time. And so fell Lord Perth. Little nursery rhyme fairy tale. Those kind of go hand in hand, right? There's a story behind that which would constitute, I think, a fairy tale. And then we find the actual Lord Perth crashed in the plane. I think that might be one.
It's at least close, but in terms of full on, person with a shitty step parent going on an adventure,
right.
Just
getting basically a fucking sword.
Yeah.
Like he was given a sword. He's given the 4-shot gun. Dude, he might as well have been King Arthur, for God's sakes. He just didn't pull it from a fucking stone.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
So again, we already talked a bit about like what this looks like, especially in light of the book Fairy Tale that just came out a year or so ago. It's just it's a cool thing because I think it shows like King has some love for fairy tales, and he mentioned in the intro to the Fairy Tale as well, where he's like, these are largely a dead type of story. A lot of people don't do this anymore. He's like, so I wanted to do something that kind of encapsulated like what they were type
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
So, and it's just cool to add it into the Dark Tower universe even before he
Check that
and
box
it makes me
off.
wonder, was the idea of fairy tale in his head when he wrote this, where he's just like, let me add a fairy tale into Roland's world?
Fairy Tale came a few years later.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
came a while later. But
A
it's like
decade later or so?
We know he sat on Under the Dome from like the 70s until the
Yeah.
early 2000s. So it's
Well, there's a
like-
lot of books. I mean, I think 11/22/63 he mentions that he had the idea for something like that. Time travel
ages
to stop
before.
that years, decades
Yeah.
before doing it.
Yeah.
So I think that's this might be one of those ones where Fairy Tale could have been in his craw,
Yeah.
and he got a little bit out in the Wind Through the Keyhole and went, maybe I actually do have something here. Maybe I could do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Because it felt very, like I said, echoey. Like,
Oh yeah,
I'll-
they feel similar.
I'll put it in the right way to say that Fairy Tale echoes this in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But like, my God, I'm so glad we did this now versus a year and a half ago before Fairy Tale was out.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. We would have been if we had done this before Fairy Tale. We would have read Fairy Tale and been like, "Oh my God, Wind Through the Keyhole!"
yeah. Like I said, it was so foggy in my mind because
Yeah.
it's been a while. But
David says also in the Wind Through the Keyhole, you get the only time that Billy Bumbler says Eddie and Susanna's name. He never does that in the series.
oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't really.
Alice says El Coco from Outsider. That's a fairy tale, but it's not in the Dark Tower, right?
No, is that Fairy Tale or is that just like a horror? Like, because that's like the
Is there a difference? I mean, we literally
That's
talked about
true.
fairy tales earlier and mentioned the Grimm brothers.
Yeah.
which is the OG fairy tales. They're
Yeah.
fucking horror stories.
So does like the Boogeyman and like the.
Where do you think they came from?
But I'm saying, does all that count as fairy tales then?
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
the dude with the hook and the kids making out in
No,
the
those
car.
are urban legends. Those are urban legends, not fairy tales.
Lore and fairy tales, folklore. Yeah. Like, yeah.
King has no. I think what Alan's trying to point out is that King has done it
It
throughout
speckles throughout
other
his career, yeah.
through other works and stuff like that. Yeah, so I see what
Yeah.
you're saying. If that's what you're saying, Alan, I think I get what you're saying. But yeah, Dark Tower, check it off the box. He does a couple fairy tales throughout, and we just never caught it.
Yeah.
He says, "Yeah, okay."
What? So in terms on the Tim side, any other things you want to hit? I have another one big topic I want to throw out in a second. I want to make sure
Let me check my notes. We've gone through most of them.
the tiger stuff is really cool.
Absolutely,
I mean,
amazing.
Because I will say too, I'm not into the whole like Knights of the Round Table. That was
Yeah.
never my thing as a kid.
So
as
Merlin.
much, but Merlin and like wizards and stuff always have been
we've talked about-
fascinating to me. So
Merlin's rainbow.
yeah, exactly. So it's like
Merlin's a person in Roland's world somehow. Like he
Yeah.
has to exist, right? There's
Again,
a
that's-
reason it's named
it's
for it.
another ambiguous. How does that mucks up?
How?
Like, is this a fairy tale or is
Yeah.
this like some sort of like
Yeah.
story that just passed down through time and becomes a fairy tale? But maybe it was a real thing that happened. So
It could have been.
But because we have never, because like Arthur Eld, all that stuff we hear about in the distance, but Merlin existing in the time of this, like that's the first real sniff of true Arthurian shit in the story too.
Yeah.
Yes, it's in the far distance. Oh yes, Excalibur got melted down into these guns. Like
Yep.
there is all that certainly, but Merlin, like this puts us in a spot where we're reading words coming out of the mouth of that person. Like
Yep.
that's a big thing to me.
The one note that I had left, actually two notes that I had is we kind of touched on it, but Marilyn says that the Crimson King is stuck in the tower already.
Yeah.
But he's stuck at the top.
Which that's
He's not stuck at the top. He's stuck at the bottom on
Yeah.
a balcony outside of the tower. So it's just kind of interesting.
That's
that
one of those funny things, though, that a story would have wrong, right?
Yeah, like they would get it wrong. Oh,
And
he's
then
stuck at the top.
Roland
'Cause
gets there and-
that sounds better than him being stuck at the bottom.
When if you're gonna make up a story, or if the story's gonna evolve over time and get massaged into mythology, you're gonna make him at the top. Like
Yeah.
that just makes sense.
And then one other thing I want to note is that Darius says the guardian of the beam of the cat is
Oh.
Aslan, which is obviously from
Yeah.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, that
So-
was a cool.
That's really cool. But then I also, I moved my place to go look something. I'm pretty sure that Merlin says that Aslan is not the guardian, and he has different magic or something like that. I can't remember where it was. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can find it.
I'm gonna pull up my notebook. I actually end up not keeping as many notes as I thought because I felt like if I went too hard on the notes, I was like, for a 10,000 foot view, we're gonna get ourselves into a, not covering anything if I take too many notes. So
it's a sad world, Tim Ross. As for me, since this is the beam of the line, 'twas his little joke to put me in the shape of a great cat, although not in the shape of Aslan.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what I was
not in the
remembering.
shape of Aslan, for that's magic not even he can do. Although he'd like to, or slay Aslan and all other guardians so the beams collapse. So Aslan is a guardian of the fucking tower, according to this story. That's what it was.
That's the interesting thing there too, because Aslan and then you've got Shardik. Those are both literary things. So are all of the Guardians of the Beams? I mean, of course, King hasn't defined them all, but I wonder if he did, if they'd all have some connection.
The
to...
turtle is connected to it.
Well, no, I mean in terms of because the turtle.
No, that's a poem. That's an exist. That's what I mean. An existing poem.
Yeah.
That they talk about in it. It's an actual poem and everything like that, right?
Yeah, but it's like
behold the turtle of enormous girth. It holds the world on his shell or something like that. Poem.
But no, it's just interesting to me that you've got the Watership Down guy did the Shardik book, I think, right?
Yeah.
And then
1974 fantasy novel by Richard Adams.
And then you have Aslan is from Lion, the Witch, and the Ward. So it's just interesting that King is attaching these mythological, larger than life guardians. He's tying them to literature, which would make sense because he's a fucking
until I hear otherwise.
To be an author, he's got to be a book nerd first, right? So he's a fucking book nerd. So that's exactly the kind of thing he would do. I think is tie it up to these literary great things. So
do we have all the animals?
There's some stuff out there.
Elephant, rat, bat, eagle, dog, turtle, wolf, fish, hare, lion, horse, bear. Until I hear otherwise, bat is Batman. Until otherwise, that's Peter Cannon. So we're gonna go with that. So thank you for that.
Probably Dracula.
Eagle is from. I'm gonna go with the eagles from the Lord of the Rings.
Probably, yeah.
I'm gonna go with that. Dog is Cujo. We'll go with that.
No, he hasn't really done his own books. It'd be someone else. It'd be Old Yeller or some classic book or something.
Something like that. Okay.
All right. So now the last thing I've got to throw out there.
We got 10 minutes.
The note from Roland's mom, because I think that's my answer to the question. My answer to the question of what is the largest addition to the Dark Tower story and narrative from this book.
Okay.
It's the note from Gabra. That is that's one of those things you don't forget. That's one of the biggest shining lights out of this book. Not that the rest of it's forgettable, but that's the big thing because it's that recontextualizes the entire emotion of Roland, doesn't it?
Yeah.
This is the King, of course, coming in 2012, writing it after the fact, but it's he's now changing the story to say that Roland basically had forgiveness from his mother. That changes everything. And that's fucking huge.
And the reason that she went insane is because Martin told her that he was going to kill her.
Yeah.
If she stayed there.
Yeah.
And Martin
was
trying
to alley trick, isn't it?
Trying to convince her to go away to Serenity, away from her son, and she refuses. She goes back.
Yeah, that's kind of
wrote this note in the meantime.
That's kind of the alley trick, isn't it?
That's a mind trip.
With the alley note.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Dude, that's a mind trip to think about someone going through that.
Oh, yeah. This is huge, though. Yeah, like I said, this is insane. Completely changes, again, where Roland's head would be at, where his heart would be at. And also, it was just so beautifully written, too. And it was unexpected. I remember the first time I read it, the last thing in the world I expected was them to say oh yeah, hey, your mom was here at one point and she, knew how things was gonna end up, and here she wrote a fucking note to you
here's a goodbye note.
Holy shit, and forgiveness, just huge. I mean, it's hard to even put into words because King wrote it so well.
Well, especially the last line. I have the last line written down.
All right, go on.
This is what Ka demands.
Yeah. That's
fuck, dude.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
It shows you, and I feel like it's so weird because after the story is told, King is now writing a book years later, and he's adding just this small little thing at the end that, in a large way, changes this character in a radical way.
Yeah,
it does. It just changes Roland's entire
everything in Wizarding Glass, and then this note added to that.
Yeah,
just changed the fundamental understanding of what Roland is and how he is as a person.
Yeah.
just completely tips everything up on its
and
head.
like the Terminator that he is at the beginning of it all. Like,
oh god,
it all
makes sense.
Yeah, it all makes so much sense, man.
Alan points out Our Lady of Serenity was the name of Callahan's church in Salem's Lot.
Oh yeah.
There's another connection. Fucking everywhere, man.
Yeah.
They are everywhere.
Yeah, this is such a great book, though, and I'm glad we finally touched on it in some way. I'm surprised we haven't done this before. But like,
absolutely.
in my head, though, I was just like, dude, it's going to be so long until we get to it. Like, we've got
yeah.
And this isn't to say this is the only time we're going to talk about it until we get to the book clubs, because it'll probably come up again.
We've opened the door. Now we can go through whenever we want.
Yeah, exactly. And he says,
in Caliber and Sturgis, that's the name of his church.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right, Alan.
yeah.
Oh, it is. Oh shit.
I'm excited for a reread here pretty soon. Now that like, this was one of the last things that was like not necessarily in my way, quote unquote, but like I had to do the stand. This was next, and it's like now I'm open. I think I'm going to hit maybe some other things before because I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these have all been rereads. It's time to hit some new stuff before maybe diving into the Dark Tower. But tail end of this year, it's going to be some Dark Tower action.
Get to Empathica when it's like February and the coldest, miserable that it gets in Utah.
Yeah.
You're just like, I feel you, Susanna. It's cold.
Yeah. Hopefully I can fly my ass to Mexico or somewhere warm.
Like you did this year. Make that a yearly thing.
Yeah, something, man. It's no bueno.
I know we're talking about going to Colorado, but we're waiting until next summer to do that.
We should go right at the end of the season.
No, fuck you. No.
Call them up. Hey, what's the last weekend that you're open?
Hey, can we winter caretake for you? Fuck you.
Be plenty of good podcasts.
No. Mm-mm. Solo ones, yeah.
Hey, if you can't trust me in a haunted hotel, sir, who can you trust?
Literally anyone else. Literally anyone else. I did have one more note for the Skinwalker one. It was at the bottom. I actually forgot that I moved it because I want to talk about it last.
Okay.
Well, for me, it's during the Skinwalker. For a Flanagan adaptation, which scene do you think would be the best for Flanagan?
I don't know. I mean, we talked about this a little bit off air.
We did talk about the slaughter at the ranch for Flanagan and how would he do that. You're saying that he has to show it. I'm saying he doesn't because it's a story.
Yeah.
And everything. That's the off camera.
Yeah,
Again, this podcast exists because this is what we do off air.
Yeah,
so,
and we try to minimize it as much as possible.
We do.
But, and I do agree with you, having seen it all or having read it all freshly now. I think that he'll probably portray it just like it is in the book. I don't think you'll see a lot that we don't see in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess the problem in my head right now is I can't think of a good degloving scene. That's unless that's how he.
That's the best scene for you.
Maybe that's his scar on his tattoo. Is he degloves his foot?
Maybe
his ankle.
Ugh.
See that bony ankle there?
Well, you'll just see the scar. It's not like he had his.
No, you'd flash back to show him going in there, wouldn't you?
When
they're accusing him of going into the green shit.
In the shed, it's a scar. It's an
I
old
know.
wound.
I know.
So.
That's what I'm saying. But they might flash back to show him going into the thing at the mine where the thing came from.
Oh.
When they're accusing him of, you went back, didn't you? Like at night or whatever. Like at that point, you got to show it. If nothing else, just show him like getting in there. Like maybe something happens to him and he trips and a rock gets there and degloves his leg.
Well, it has to heal before he becomes, or does it heal because he became the Skinwalker?
Yeah, exactly.
Every time he transforms, all the little nicks and cuts get healed.
Indeed. We need some more werewolf movies in our lives.
Dude, you've been sending me shit, and I'm not happy about it. My scene would be the walking the miners past Bill and Roland in the cell.
that was a great scene.
Dude,
for
that's
sure.
intense. And if you want a degloving, what if a guy puts his hand up and the snake just goes?
Oh yeah, that would be a good one.
Just like you're taking a kebab and just pulling the skin off of a chicken wing, a drumstick.
Oh, I wish Hayden were in here.
We could clip it and send it to him. Yeah, you just think of like a drumstick. You just when you bite and all the skin comes off, but it leaves the meat.
Yeah, indeed. That'd be great.
Right there,
Yeah.
like Arnold in T2.
Yeah, just more grotesque.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
You like that?
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah, but that tension in that jail scene,
Oh yeah,
of them walking past. Dude, that would be so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I think Flanagan would do so
and
well.
on screen too, because I think that the hard part when you're reading is it's so easy just to like default Roland to being an adult and forget that he's a kid because
he's like what 15
because it's
16?
Roland, but it's like when you see it on camera and he and Jamie are these like 14 15-year-old kids, like just it changes the entire because it's so easy and I try hard to hold it in my mind where it's like he's just a kid. But it still escapes because it's fucking Roland, So when he commands someone, it becomes Roland. But it's like to see it on screen, to see a freaking kid commanding all that would be very interesting.
Yeah,
to see.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's all my notes too. So
perfect timing.
For
Look at that.
For now, that is to be continued on Wind Through the Keyhole. So we do have, I think I mentioned, I guess we didn't cover the calendar heavily, but next episode in a fortnight from now, we will be doing the book club, and then a roundtable on the 23rd of September. And then we will be back we'll be flip-flopping because the 7th of October, we will be in Las Vegas.
Which
so
will be
a
the roundtable / on the road special event.
Yes. So that
is it are we calling it a roundtable or are
Yeah.
we calling it a special episode?
Yeah, definitely a roundtable. And I actually do have it. There's already some hints because the live streams I schedule out. I did already schedule that one. So.
Oh yeah, what did you put? I meant to go look. I forgot.
Yeah, it's I threw a little hint on there, but yeah, that's coming up. That's what's coming up down the pike. We'll try to catch up on all the news on Roundtable 141 at the end of September. Anything that we missed because we couldn't cover anything because we wanted to spend time on this. But that is it. We'll be back for book club in a fortnight on the 9th of September. So looking forward to that. We will have Holly in our hands or in our ears at that point.
Finished.
You think so? Couple days?
You doubt my dedication.
Oh man. But yeah, let's go ahead and hit the outro stuff real quick. I will also throw something in the chat for Geekery Abides if you want to join us over there. If you want to find where we're at here, subscribe to us. You can do that on any podcasting service of your choice. You could stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. If you want to join us on the live streams, you can do that over here at youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. If you are here on YouTube, we would appreciate the like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. Otherwise, the YouTube algorithm gods will eat us, and they'll come as a beast for you. YouTube will create a beast.
Don't tell them that. Then they're going to not like it, and it's going to happen.
You think they all want you to be eaten? Is that?
They put emojis and stuff in the chat, don't they?
Yeah, thank you guys for that, by the way.
Yeah,
I see one up at the top with Carol there. I love it. And then if you want to find the show notes, you can do it over at darktowerpalaver.com. Again, I don't think we really have a whole lot of show notes for this episode.
A link of where to buy Wind Through the Keyhole.
I guess the only thing is I'd say go check out the King Cast or Flanagan did it, especially if you've seen Dolores Claiborne. That's their main topic. But he does, I do believe there is maybe also a little bit, they talk about Life of Chuck.
Or the other podcast with Stephen King on it.
And then the Talking Scared as well, if you want to check those out. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's all we covered outside of this. So not really any show notes for this episode, but all things Dark Tower Palaver you can find over there at darktowerpalaver.com. You can support us at Patreon at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. And if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the best ways to do that.
Email us. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com or show@darktowerpalaver.com. Check out our social medias. We got our Twitter or X, I guess,
Twitter.
At Dark Tower Pod. That's at Dark Tower POD. And then our Facebook is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Instagram is Dark Tower Palaver, all one word, no spaces. And check out our merchandise, tpublic.com/users/Dark Tower Palaver.
And you can get the classic logo if you don't like sticker-based slander or T-shirt-based slander. But yeah, that
Hashtag Ted is terrible.
And as we're about to sign off here, so again, there's no hammer to drop on you. You were all worried about there would be some bad news. You said you wouldn't feel safe.
What the fuck are you doing?
Just prepping myself.
Don't.
Oi.
Okay.
What was you expecting to hit Oland?
Yes.
I deleted that button. I told you that.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it can't come back, you fucker.
That's true. But we all sign off, as we always do, by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right, everyone on the YouTube side, thank you all for joining us.
I got to tell you a real fast story. Just 20-second story real fast. The joke about Twitter and X and everything like that. Dude, I got an email and I talked to you about it, the NFL Sunday Ticket. It literally has their Twitter handle. It just says Follow us on Twitter. It doesn't even say X. They didn't even bother updating it. Even YouTube's like, fuck, this is stupid.
I did see the local news though. I was saw it the other day. Just the morning news, and it had X and their handles. I'm like just it's like a bully. Just ignore it. And
yeah, I just
away.
love that YouTube was just like, this is so stupid. We're not even going to bother to change it.
Yeah, indeed. But thank y'all for joining us. Love having you all as part of the conversation.
Oh, you're great.
Yeah, love the emojis. Always appreciate them. There's a lot of emojis here. Cody, everyone.
Stop it.
Agamorphy.
Stop it.
Thank y'all for all the emojis. And we will again see you guys in a fortnight or in about 15 minutes if you're joining us on Geekery Bites.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Bye, everyone.